Chapter 139 Beimang Mountain, Bloodwind Stronghold. Song Tiandao, Master Shao, and the feminine man walked out side by side, followed by a black mass of bandits. Li Zishuan roughly glanced and estimated that there were at least 700 or 800 people. His heart sank as he did not expect the scale of this stronghold to be so large. His martial arts were indeed strong, but as the saying goes, 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. Even if he was a master, he could still kill a master. He could deal with dozens of small fries, but with nearly 1,000 bandits, even if he was a master, he would still be beaten badly. Moreover, he had used Qin Gong to rush 7 or 8 miles. The true qi in his body was seriously consumed, which made things worse. I was wondering who it was. It turned out to be you, little bastard. I did not expect you to not fall to your death and dare to take the initiative to come to my door. But you came just in time. I, Song Tiandao, will avenge my second brother and third brother today. It was Song Tiandao who came to the front of the crowd. When he saw Li Zishuan, he suddenly felt a little familiar. Looking carefully, wasn't this the little kid who ruined their Bloodwind Stronghold's business 2 months ago in the Zhongnan Mountains? New hatred and old hatred surged in his heart. Song Tiandao stepped out of the crowd and pointed at Li Zishuan and scolded. Master Shao and the feminine man had not seen Li Zishuan before, but they often heard of him. At this time, they looked at Song Tiandao suspiciously. They did not expect Song Tiandao to have an old grudge with the young man in front of them. Li Zishuan smiled contemptuously. Loser, how dare you be arrogant? If you know what's good for you, quickly let Han Yushi go. Otherwise, I will flatten your stronghold today. When Song Tiandao heard Li Zishuan call him a loser, his face could not help but flash a trace of anger. 2 months ago, the robbery in the Zhongnan Mountains was the shame of his life. Not only did he not get the beauty, money, and goods, but he also lost his men and was ridiculed by the Lulin people. When he heard Li Zishuan threaten to flatten the stronghold, Song Tiandao laughed angrily. Oh, I did not expect the little kid to be a lord. I don't know which Java country you are a lord. You are really a Hadongyan. What a big tone. We have more than 1,000 brothers. You want to try to flatten one? Ha ha. Ha ha. Has this little brat watched too many dramas? That's right, that's right. How dare you come to our bloody wind stockade when you haven't even grown your hair? There was a burst of laughter among the bandits. Li Zishuan frowned. He exerted his strength to the tip of his foot and gently kicked the ground under his feet. Several stones shot out and flew towards Song Tiandao and the others. He had just taken the opportunity to recover his true qi. Although he had not recovered to his peak, he was almost there. He had not seen Han Yushi for so long, and the ominous premonition in his heart was getting stronger and stronger. He could not wait any longer. No matter how many bandits there were in front of him, he had to kill his way out. Song Tiandao, Master Shao, and the feminine man easily avoided Li Zishuan's sneak attack. However, the bandits behind them did not have time to dodge. 4 or 5 bandits were instantly killed and fell to the ground. When the rest of the bandits saw this, they glared at Li Zishuan, but did not dare to say a word. Of course, Li Zishuan did not expect to kill the bandit leader with just this. His goal was only to enrage him. When people were angry, they would often lose their rationality. Perhaps the bandit leader would come out and fight him one-on-one in a fit of rage. In his previous life, when he read The Legend of the Sui and Tang Heroes, he often saw that when 2 armies faced each other, they usually liked to fight the generals first. Although he was not sure if there would be such a thing in the real Tang dynasty, he still wanted to try. In a one-on-one fight, he was certainly not afraid of the defeated general. At that time, he might be able to capture him and save Han Yushi. Song Tiandao saw that Li Zishuan dared to kill his men under his nose. As expected, he was furious. He shouted angrily, "How dare you? Men, take my broadsword. Little child, you'd better tell me your name first. Otherwise, you'll be a nameless ghost after you die." Li Zishuan saw that Song Tiandao was indeed enraged and wanted to fight him one-on-one. He was delighted. At this moment, he looked at the hundreds of thatched cottages behind the bandits. He did not know where Han Yushi was locked up. He shouted loudly, I am Li Zishuan, the man of Lantian County, who was personally conferred by the Emperor. You gathered in the forest and kidnapped my fiancée. If you don't want to die under the encirclement of the Imperial Army, immediately put down your weapons and hand over my fiancée. I will spare your lives." His shout contained a bit of true qi and traveled far. His purpose was to tell Han Yushi that he was here and to tell her not to do anything stupid. Han Yushi was in the house, like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Her heart was filled with despair. Suddenly, she heard Li Zishuan's voice. Her desperate heart was instantly filled with joy. When she heard Li Zishuan say, "My fiancé," Han Yushi could no longer hold it in and cried emotionally. She had waited for this sentence for a long time. Finally it came. In front of the stronghold, Master Shao was obviously stunned. He never expected that Li Zishuan could find Han Yushi so quickly after he captured her in the wilderness. He also did not expect that Li Zishuan would dare to break into the stronghold alone. He also did not expect that Han Yushi was Li Zishuan's fiancée. The situation was getting more and more serious. They only wanted the new wine formula. They did not intend to fight to the death with Li Zishuan. The hatred of snatching his wife was comparable to the hatred of killing his father. This time the grudge was big. Song Tiandao did not have so many scruples. His heart was full of hatred and anger. He raised a 9-eared chain knife that his subordinates carried over and scolded, "Bah, Grandpa, I don't care if you were some bullshit asterisk Tea Master Jew. Last time, you ruined Grandpa's good deed and caused my second and third brothers to be captured and beheaded by the Imperial Court's dog officials. Today, Grandpa, I want you to pay with your life. Hey, watch the knife." Song Tiandao took 2 steps and jumped up. He aimed at Li Zishuan's forehead and chopped it with great force. When a blade was less than an inch away from Li Zishuan's forehead, Li Zishuan's body leaned back, showing a strange 20-degree angle with the ground. Taking advantage of this gap, he lifted the sword with one hand and pushed the blade away. His other hand gently supported himself on the ground. His whole body drew a semicircle with his heel as the center. With such a fall, a lift, and a turn, Song Tiandao's powerful killing blow was easily resolved by Li Zishuan. Li Zishuan did not stop. He used the third sword of 9 Taishian swords, Snow Treading. Song Tiandao suddenly felt his eyes blur. Then, he felt that every part of his body was about to be attacked. Song Tiandao was shocked. He did not understand why this little boy's skill had improved so much in just 2 months. He desperately waved the big knife, trying to protect the vital parts of his body. However, he was only at the peak of body refining and had not yet reached the Qi transformation realm. How could he be Li Zishuan's opponent? After a while, he could not hold on anymore. His body had suffered more than 10 minor injuries. Li Zishuan saw that the time was right. He poured genuine qi into his feet and used the orchid butterfly steps, ready to capture Song Tiandao. At this moment, Li Zishuan saw a strange black shadow suddenly flash in front of Song Tiandao. Its speed was so fast that it was not inferior to his orchid butterfly steps in the slightest. He saw the black shadow reach out and pull Song Tiandao out of the battle. Li Zishuan was furious. This person did not follow the rules. He directly used his fastest sword, the 5th sword of 9 Taishian swords, parting the dust. The sword parted the dust and was bleak and cold. It went straight for Song Tiandao's back. Since he could not capture him, he would kill him. After killing so many people, Li Zishuan's killing intent was getting heavier and heavier. Song Tiandao only felt a cold chill piercing his back. He secretly said, "My life is over." The feminine man next to him had no time to save him. The main reason was that Li Zishuan's sword was too fast. At the critical moment, Master Shao flung his sleeve. An iron ball flew out and hit Li Zishuan's sword. This sure kill sword finally deviated from its trajectory and only cut off Song Tiandao's left arm. A thick and heavy arm fell to the ground with a clang. Even though Li Zishuan hurriedly retreated, he was still splashed by the blood from Song Tiandao's shoulder. Suddenly, his white clothes turned red. The elegant young master turned into a demon god. Chapter 140. Silence. The bandits were cheering for their leader's bravery, but in the blink of an eye, Song Tiandao's arm was cut off, and he almost died. They were all scared out of their wits and stood rooted to the ground. Master Zhao's heart was also in turmoil. He and the second young master had focused on Li Zishuan's ability to make money, but they didn't make a correct assessment of Li Zishuan's strength. They didn't expect this weak youth to have such high martial arts. It was really unexpected. Li Zishuan returned to his original spot and secretly used the Taishan Sutra to recover his internal energy. In the battle just now, he had used up 20 to 30% of his qi. Leader Song, you can't beat him one-on-one, so you plan to fight together? Li Zishuan said sarcastically. Song Tiandao covered his right arm and his face was pale. Facing Li Zishuan's sarcasm, he had nothing to say and could only stare back angrily. On the other hand, the skinny man who had just rushed and walked out with one hand on his waist and the other hand on his thumb and middle finger. He said in a sweet voice, "Io, our Lord Li is young and has a high position. His martial arts are also so good. My little heart is beating fast. Lord Zhu, why are you so angry? Why don't I accompany you to the front of the flowers under the moon?" Ugh, Li Zishuan was disgusted. He quickly jumped away and scolded, "Damn transvestite, stop. You're neither yin nor yang, hiding your head and tail. I don't think you're a good person either." He didn't expect to meet a transvestite in ancient times. It was really disgusting. The transvestite pointed at Li Zishuan with his thumb and middle finger and said unhappily, "Humph. How can you say that to me? I'm so sad. Do you think I'm willing to cover my face in such hot weather? I'm just afraid that you guys won't be able to walk if I take off my veil. Also, what's a transvestite? Why do you say I'm a transvestite?" Ugh, cough, cough. Master Xiao couldn't help but retch. He shouted, "Flying Snake, come back. Don't mess around." Flying Snake. This person was actually the Flying Snake who went to the Han village to steal wine last time. Flying Snake waved his hand discontentedly and said, "Master Xiao, let me interact with this handsome young man." Li Zishuan was furious. He pointed his sword at the Flying Snake and cursed, "What bullshit, Flying Snake? You just disturbed my duel with Song Tiandao. Now, I will turn you into a dead snake." Li Zishuan had secretly observed that this Flying Snake was only in the middle stage of qi transformation, but his movements were too strange. As long as Master Xiao didn't interfere, Li Zishuan was confident that he could defeat him. Yo, since you're so fierce to me, I'll play with you." After saying this, the Flying Snake's aura suddenly changed. He was no longer as frivolous as before. He took the initiative to move forward, and 3 arc-shaped spikes suddenly extended from his sleeves. They emitted a faint blue light and were obviously dipped in poison. The Flying Snake waved his spikes and clawed fiercely at Li Zishuan's face. Li Zishuan had long been on guard against this person's ghostly speed. As soon as the Flying Snake moved, he had already channeled his strength to his feet. Seeing the Flying Snake's poisonous spikes attack, he dodged to the side, raised his sword, and slashed at the 3 poisonous spikes. The swords and spikes clashed. Metal clanged, and sparks flew in all directions. Both of them were sent flying. The chasing wind sword could cut through iron like mud. Li Zishuan originally thought that this sword could cut through the spikes. Who knew that the result would be like this? It seemed that the Flying Snake's weapon was not ordinary. Li Zishuan adjusted his body and used the first 5 moves of the 9 Taishan swords: Riding Wind, Graceful Grace, Snow Treading, Wave Breaker, and Parting Dust. He wanted to end this battle quickly. The Flying Snake had previously seen Li Zishuan use Snow Treading and Parting Dust. At that time, he had been amazed by the exquisiteness of Li Zishuan's swordsmanship. However, he had never imagined that this was a complete set of swordsmanship. Furthermore, as he continuously used them, his attacks were endless. Each move was fiercer than the last. The Flying Snake could only rely on his ghostly body movements to barely block. However, when Li Zishuan used his final move, Parting Dust, the Flying Snake could clearly see that this move was exactly the same as the one that had cut off Song Tiandao's left arm. However, it was even faster than before. It was truly as fast as flowing light. This was the superposition effect of the 9 Taishian swords. Faced with this extraordinary parting dust sword, the flying snake had no time to dodge. Even Master Xiao, who was beside him, could not save him. Without any suspense, this sword pierced the flying snake's throat. The flying snake cried out twice. His neck tilted, and he became a dead snake. Master Zhao's eyes widened. Just as he was about to attack Li Zishuan, a masked man suddenly appeared and whispered a few words into his ear. A trace of panic flashed through Master Zhao's eyes. He ignored Song Tiandao and the other bandits and led the rest of the black-clothed men to retreat. Li Zishuan felt somewhat baffled. Song Tiandao felt even more incredulous. He cried out, "Hey, Master Xiao, where are you going?" However, the other party simply ignored him. Song Tiandao stomped his feet in anger. He looked at Li Zishuan and said hatefully, "Little bastard, you're really good at fighting. Then I, your grandfather, will see if you can beat over 1,000 of us. Brothers, let's go. Chop this bastard up and avenge the second and third masters. Whoever can cut this brat once will be rewarded with 10 strings of cash." With such a great reward, brave men were bound to emerge. Moreover, it was 1,000 people against one person. The bandits' fighting spirit immediately soared. They waved the weapons in their hands and rushed toward Li Zishuan. Li Zishuan's face darkened. He didn't expect Song Tiandao to be so shameless. The thing he was most worried about had happened. There was no other way. He could only fight head-on. Li Zishuan gritted his teeth and took the initiative to attack. He used his body to his advantage in the crowd. While constantly dodging attacks, he used the wind-chasing sword in his hand to harvest lives. Song Tiandao retreated far away. He looked at Li Zishuan in the crowd and sneered. He didn't believe that this brat would never run out of strength. Song Tiandao was right. After all, Li Zishuan was only at the peak of the qi refining stage. He hadn't reached the supreme power level yet. After half an hour, although he had killed 70 or 80 bandits, his genuine qi had been almost exhausted. He also had more than 10 knife wounds on his body. Li Zishuan felt a little powerless. No matter how good his kung fu was, he was still afraid of a kitchen knife. If he could get out of here alive today, he must get some high-tech weapons to defend himself. Damn it! How dare you bully my brother? Wooden face, hurry up and let your men kill them. Just when Li Zishuan was feeling desperate, he suddenly heard Cheng Chumo's voice behind him. He used the last of his genuine qi and used the orchid butterfly steps to escape the battle in an instant. He retreated to Cheng Chumo's side and said angrily, "Damn it! If you had come a little later, I would have died." Cheng Chumo hurriedly supported him and said heartlessly, "Didn't I come? Little Xian, hurry up and rest. These bastards dare to bully people with numbers. I, Old Cheng, will let them see what it means to have a lot of people. Wooden face, hurry up." Li Zishuan looked back and saw an old acquaintance. He smiled and said, "Thank you for your trouble, General Dugu." Dugu bowed and said, "This is this general's duty." Today was different from the past. Li Zishuan was now a noble, so the necessary respect was indispensable. Dugu Xian waved his hand. 1,000 Featherwood guards in bright armor entered in a line with murderous intent. It's the Imperial Court's officers and soldiers. It's the Featherwood Guards. It's over. Run. When the numerous mountain bandits saw the dense mass of soldiers swarming in from the stronghold gate, they were immediately thrown into disarray and were about to scatter and flee. They were nothing more than a motley crew. How could they dare to cross hands with the elite regular army of the Featherwood Guard? All officers and soldiers, listen to my order. Don't let anyone go. If there is resistance, kill without mercy. Yes. The bandits pushed and shoved each other in panic. The well-trained Featherwood Guards wrapped all the bandits like dumplings in a moment. There are also bandits who were unwilling to be captured and wanted to kill their way out of the encirclement. However, they were cut down by the Featherwood Guards in a few rounds. As the Imperial Army, if they couldn't even defeat the bandits, then wouldn't they, the Featherwood Guards, be laughed at by the other armies? Song Tiandao also wanted to run, but he was surrounded by people. He was seriously injured and couldn't run. A small bandit next to him said with dissatisfaction, "Boss, who did you catch in the end? How did you provoke the Featherwood Guards?" Song Tandao said angrily, "How the hell did I know that girl's background was so big? It was Master Shao who paid me 3,000 strings of cash to catch her. It doesn't seem like it's just the Featherwood Guards. How come there are people behind them? Hey, that seems to be Lu Guogong. I've seen him before in Chang'an City. First Master, you've put us in a lot of trouble. Why did you provoke that madman Lu Guogong?" Song Tiandao said with displeasure, "Mother of Asterisker, you were more active than anyone else when it came to splitting the money. Now you have the face to say this? Hey, that's Guogong and Wu Guogong." It turned out to be the Eastern Palace Imperial Guards following behind the Featherwood Guards. Chung Yaojin, Qin Xiong, Yuqi Jingda, Niu Jinda, and the others all rushed over one after another. The bandits were scared out of their wits. They never thought that they would alarm so many important people. Now their legs were weak. How could they dare to run? They could only pray that they would suffer less after being caught. Chung Chumo laughed arrogantly at the bandits. "Ha ha! You want to compete with Lousy in terms of numbers? Mother of Asterisker, come out and fight again." Li Zishuan ignored that fool. After he thanked Chung Yao Jin and the others, he quickly called a bandit to take him to find Han Yushi. People often don't know how precious they are until they lose something. He really wanted to see Han Yushi right now. He didn't want to wait a moment longer. Chapter 141. The underling led Li Zishuan through many twists and turns before arriving at a small, shabby hut. Then, he respectfully said, "Lord Ju, it's here." Li Zishuan nodded and said, "Go squat in front of the stockade by yourself. Don't think about running away. As long as you haven't committed murder or arson, I'll get someone to give you a lighter punishment." The henchman immediately bowed excitedly and said, "Thank you, Lord Ju." "Don't worry, Lord Ju. I definitely won't dare to run away." Li Zishuan waved his hand and sent him away. Then, he pushed the door open and entered. He saw Han Yushi's hands tied to the pillar. She was looking at him with tears in her eyes. Li Zishuan hurriedly went forward and helped Han Yushi untie the rope. He grabbed her shoulder and asked with concern, "Yushi, are you okay? They didn't do anything to you, right?" Han Yushi shook her head. She looked at Li Zishuan's tattered and blood-stained clothes. She thought of the person in front of her running dozens of miles alone and ignoring the danger. He went deep into the nest of thousands of bandits to save her. She could not help but say sadly, "Young master, why are you so seriously injured?" "It's all my fault. I caused Uncle Hu's death and young master's injury. Yushi isn't an auspicious person." Sob sob. Li Zishuan's heart melted when he heard Han Yushi's crying. He ignored the pain in his arm and pulled Han Yushi into his arms. He said gently, "Nonsense. How can you be an inauspicious person? Yushi, you're a fairy given to me by the heavens. At the same time, you're a demon sent to me by the heavens." Han Yushi was obviously stunned when she heard these contradictory words. She stopped crying and looked up at Li Zishuan. "Young master, how can I be a demon?" Li Zishuan stared at Han Yushi's beautiful face that was still stained with tears. He brewed his emotions and said in a slightly magnetic voice, "Yushi, no matter how many lives the flower blooms and how many times the flower falls, no matter where the wind rises and where the wind stops, you will never be able to escape because you know in your heart that you are my inner demon." Han Yushi had never heard such touching words of love. She could no longer hold it in and threw herself into Li Zishuan's arms. She hugged him tightly and cried bitterly, sob sob, "Young master, Yushi is not worth your effort. Yushi is not worth it. Yushi even killed Uncle Hu before," sob sob. Han Yushi hugged him too tightly. Although Li Zishuan grimaced in pain and gasped, he couldn't bear to break such a warm and romantic atmosphere. He could only grit his teeth and endure. He stroked Han Yushi's soft long hair and said softly, "Silly girl, who said that Uncle Hu is dead? He's not dead yet. He's being treated at the Imperial Physician's Department." Han Yushi raised her delicate tear-stained face and said in disbelief, "Young master, are you saying that Uncle Hu is still alive? Young master, is this true?" Li Zishuan nodded. Although old Li Zishuan's injuries were serious, his vital parts were not injured. Li Zishuan believed that with Sun Simiao's medical skills, he would definitely be able to save old Hu. Uncle Hu is indeed still alive. Yushi, don't blame yourself for everything. It's my fault. I didn't protect you well. Han Yushi quickly shook her head and said, It's not young master's fault. It's not young master's fault. Li Zishuan stroked her cheek and said affectionately, Yushi, marry Yushi. Yushi, marry me. Let me protect you for the rest of your life. You are my inner demon. I can't leave you. I want to turn my inner demon into a fairy who will accompany me for the rest of my life. I want to love you until we grow old. Ah, young master. Han Yushi was so embarrassed by such straightforward words of love that her face turned red. With a cry, she plunged into Li Zishuan's arms like an ostrich. Li Zishuan scratched his head awkwardly. He had racked his brains to recall these words of love from some movies and television works in his previous life. Did Han Yushi agree or not? Yushi, are you not willing? Li Zishuan probed carefully. When Han Yushi heard Li Zishuan ask such an idiotic question, she couldn't help but secretly roll her eyes. She thought to herself, young master's words of love before were quite touching, but why is his EQ still so low? However, she was also afraid that Li Zishuan would really misunderstand, so she quickly said, young master, Yushi is willing. Ha! Li Zishuan carried Han Yushi in his arms and spun around in a circle with pride and excitement. He laughed and said, ha, that's great. Yushi, you finally agreed. Hiss, in the end, this guy's extreme joy turned to sorrow. It affected the wound on his back, and he gasped in pain. Han Yushi first thought to herself, what do you mean by I finally agreed? It's you who finally said that you love me, silly young master. Behind him, he heard Li Zishuan's cry of pain. He quickly pulled Li Zishuan's hand and asked anxiously, young master, where do you hurt? Let me take a look. Li Zishuan waved his hand and said nonchalantly, it's just a small injury. It's fine, it's fine. He looked at Han Yushi's stunning face and delicate red lips. For a moment, he couldn't help but feel a little restless. He swallowed a few mouthfuls of saliva and murmured, Yushi? Han Yushi raised her small face and looked at Li Zishuan curiously. She saw that handsome face getting closer and closer to her. She also realized what was going to happen next. After hesitating for a moment, she didn't refuse. She closed her eyes and nervously clenched her hands, waiting for the sacred moment to arrive. When Li Zishuan saw that Han Yushi finally put on a look of letting him do whatever he wanted, his index finger couldn't help but move. His heart was also beating wildly with excitement. He tried his best to slowly get closer to Han Yushi's delicate lips, afraid that he would wake up this stunning beauty who was in a deep sleep. At this moment, he could even smell Han Yushi's body fragrance. He was only 0.01 centimeters away from Han Yushi's red lips. He heard Cheng Chumo shouting from not far away, Little Xian, we're going back to the city. Hurry up. Han Yushi suddenly woke up. She was afraid that Cheng Chumo, who was not far away, would barge in. She hurriedly broke free from Li Zishuan's embrace and stood at the side with her head lowered shyly. Chow, Cheng Chumo, I won't live under the same sky as you. Li Zishuan roared at the sky unwillingly. The thousands of troops finally set off and returned to Chang'an. Among them were less than 1,000 bandits. Li Zishuan held Han Yushi's hand and walked at the back, mainly to take care of Han Yushi's emotions. This little girl was now so shy that she didn't dare to see anyone. Even when Qin Xiong came over to talk to her, she didn't dare to raise her head. She only stared at the tip of her feet and reluctantly replied with a mosquito-like voice. Cheng Yaojin, Qin Xiong, and the others all laughed knowingly. They let the accompanying military doctor treat Li Zishuan's wounds simply and let the young couple show off their love sweetly at the back. Cheng Chumo also wanted to come over and be a troublemaker before, but he was slapped back by Cheng Yaojin and scolded, You little bastard, why don't you hurry up and find a good girl to marry into the family? Why are you running over there blindly to meddle? Look at little Xian. He's so young, but he's already kidnapped a beautiful little girl. Cheng Yaojin's words were too king heart-wrenching. Cheng Chumo's expression suddenly looked as if he had eaten a pile of shit. He secretly hated Li Zixuan for not being a good brother. He actually found a wife first, causing him, a single young man, to be scolded by his father. Chapter 142. The sun was setting in the west. This huge team of more than 2,000 people finally arrived at the east side of Chang'an City. In the team, there were handsome and energetic generals, tall and heroic dukes, well-trained soldiers in bright armor, simple but powerful family generals, ragged and dispirited bandits, and even more strange was that there was a team of strong men carrying a white horse. Of course, there was also a pair of adulterous couple who were holding hands and showing off their affection to the crowd. That's right, at least that's what Cheng Chumo thought to himself about Li Zixuan. The white horse that was being carried was the horse that was stabbed by vines on the way to Xiefeng Stockade Village by Li Zixuan. Li Zixuan spent money to hire 10 relatively young Cheng family guards to carry the horse back home. At that time, these men refused to take the money. Later, Li Zixuan said, "If anyone dares not to take the money, I will pay a few children to pee in front of your door every day." The 10 guards wiped away the cold sweat on their foreheads and hurriedly took the money from Li Zixuan. They secretly thought that this young master was truly rich and willful. However, this way of thinking was truly too immoral. Han Yushi looked at the familiar Yinchen Gate and felt that it was a lifetime ago. During the few hours when she was taken away, she was frightened all the way. She was afraid that the bandits would ruin her innocence, and she was prepared to die to protect her innocence. Later, when she was full of despair, Li Zixuan went deep into the village alone to save her. She really did not expect that she could be saved so quickly. After all, Xiefeng Stockade Village was in the wilderness. It was not easy to find it in such a short time. Thinking of this, Han Yushi could not help but hold his hand tighter, as if this would make her feel safer. They were about to enter the city. Han Yushi did not intend to let Li Zixuan let go of her hand. Although it was embarrassing to be pointed at by so many people, she thought that since the young master liked to hold her hand, then let him hold it. If others liked to say it, then let them say it. She was the young master's woman for the rest of her life. Even if the young master wanted her to die now, she was willing to do so. Holding hands was a small matter, and she could just follow the young master's temperament. As for Li Zixuan, ever since this fellow held Han Yushi's smooth and soft little hand, he could not bear to part with this wonderful touch. Today, he had finally won Han Yushi's hand with great difficulty, so he could not bear to let go. If he wanted to hold her hand, he would hold her hand for a lifetime. It had to be said that after experiencing life and death, Han Yushi and Li Zixuan's attitude towards each other had changed greatly. When the citizens of the city saw such a complicated and strange team, they couldn't help but discuss among themselves. Io, where did so many troops come from? It's been a long time since I've seen so many troops move out together. I don't know. It looks like the Featherwood Guard. Could it be that there's a war somewhere? Hey, why did the Featherwood Guard send so many people? Do you think these people are bandits? I think they are quite similar. Hey, isn't that Duke Liu? There's also Duke Yi and Duke Wu. Heavens, where are these bandits so powerful that they can even alarm these dukes to personally suppress the bandits? Hey, who said they weren't? These bandits really don't have eyes. How can they casually provoke these people in Chang'an City? When Song Tiandao heard these people's discussion, he felt so wrong that he was about to cry. Was he willing to provoke the Featherwood Guard, Cheng Yaojin, and other big shots? How could he know that a little country girl would have such great power behind her? Song Tiandao was now cursing Master Shao in his heart. If it weren't for him, he would still be the head of the carefree camp in the mountain stronghold. As a result, not only did he not get the 3,000 strings of cash, but he also became a prisoner. Thinking about how Li Zixuan was alone among thousands of people in the mountain stronghold, as if he was in a no-man's land. With a long sword, he killed people like cutting melons and vegetables. Thinking of this, Song Tiandao felt goosebumps all over his body. This was not something a 14 or 15-year-old child would do. This was much more ferocious than the authentic bandits. Song Tandao looked at Cheng Yaojin, Qin Xiong, and other big shots in front of him, and then secretly glanced back at Li Zixuan, who was talking about love. He couldn't help but feel despair in his heart. He didn't know what kind of cruel punishment was waiting for him. Yushi, let's go to the Imperial Medical Department to see Uncle Zhang first, and then turn back home. Li Zixuan thought about it and suggested. The main thing was that he was now injured all over. When he went back, his mother would definitely be distressed. Moreover, she might even resent Han Yushi because of this. After all, her son was seriously injured in order to save her. Li Zixuan was sure that according to his mother's personality, this kind of thing could really happen. In order to avoid affecting their relationship, Li Zixuan decided to go to the Imperial Medical Department to see Old Hu first, treat his wounds, and change his clothes before going home. Han Yushi didn't know that Li Zixuan had secretly thought so much for her. Hearing this, she raised her head and said, "Young master, you're going back so late. Will master and madam be worried? Why don't you go home first while Yushi goes to see Uncle Hu?" Li Zixuan smiled and said, "It's okay. I'll send someone back to report that I'm safe." He brought Han Yushi to the front of the group, bowed to Qin Xiong, Cheng Yaojin, Yuqi Jingda, and Yo Jinda, and said sincerely, "I thank all of you for your help today. In 2 days, I will hold a banquet at the Drunken Immortal restaurant. I will use the strongest wine and the most delicious dishes to entertain all of you." Cheng Yaojin laughed loudly and said, "Haha, good boy. I like hearing these words." Yuqi Jingda and Yo Jinda nodded with a smile. Although part of the reason they came today was because of Li Zixuan, it was mainly because of Qin Xiong. Qin Xiong smiled and said, "Little Xian, you don't have to be so polite to me. Yushi is my adopted daughter. You went to save her alone. I should thank you." Li Zixuan repeatedly said that he didn't dare. He thanked Dugu Xian again and asked him to investigate the person behind this group of bandits. Then he bid farewell to Qin Xiong and said, "Uncle Qin, I'll bring Yushi to the Imperial Medical Department to see Uncle Hu first." Qin Xiong nodded and said solemnly, "Speaking of which, this Hu Hanyun was injured because of Yushi. It's already late today, so I won't go over. Little Xian, you have to thank him on my behalf. I'll visit him personally another day." Li Zixuan replied, "Don't worry, Uncle Qin. I will." Qin Xiong looked at Han Yushi and said, "Yushi, you have to visit your adoptive mother tomorrow. She has been talking about you. When she heard that something happened to you, she was worried sick at home." Han Yushi bowed and said, "Yes, adoptive father. Yushi will definitely visit adoptive mother tomorrow." Qin Xiong smiled and waved his hand. He said kindly, "Good child, quickly go to the Imperial Medical Department." Chapter 143. "Uncle Hu, are you all right?" Li Zixuan and Han Yushi came to the Imperial Physician's office and asked about Old Hu's room. They pushed the door open and entered. They saw that Hu was indeed serving Old Hu, who was wrapped up like a dumpling, medicine. He quickly walked over and asked. When Old Hu saw Li Zixuan come in, he quickly pushed the medicine bowl away and smiled at Li Zixuan. "Young master, you're here? I'm here today to thank you for helping Jinjing and Jinjing find a miracle doctor. Sai, it's great that you saved the Han family's girl so quickly. Otherwise, Old Hu, would never have the face to return to the Han family village." Hearing this, Han Yushi said with red eyes, "Uncle Hu, please don't say that. It's all Yushi's fault that you're so seriously injured. If anything happens to you, Yushi won't have the face to see Aunt Lu." Old Hu said indifferently, "Sai, this injury is nothing. When I was fighting in the early years, I was injured more seriously than this several times, but I'm still fine. Han girl, young master, don't worry. I, Old Hu, have a tough life." "What do you mean by fine? You broke 12 bones and lost more than half a liter of blood. If your injuries were more serious, I'm afraid you would have died." At this moment, Sun Simiao walked in and said angrily. Behind him, Hu Zhen, who had a white cloth wrapped around his eyes, followed. When Old Hu heard Sun Simiao scolding, he laughed embarrassedly and didn't say anything else. Patients were always in awe of doctors. Seeing Sun Simiao come in, Han Yushi bowed to him. Then, she went to pull Hu Zhen to the side. Li Zixuan stood up and cupped his hands to Sun Simiao. Daoist son, is Uncle Hu's injury serious? He was shocked when he heard Sun Simiao say that it was so serious. He secretly thought that old Hu was really tough. If it were someone else with such a serious injury, they probably wouldn't have been able to hold on. Sun Simiao said with a serious expression, "The injury is very serious. I'm afraid it will take at least 3 months to recover. Xiao Xian, your injury isn't light either. I'll get someone to bandage it for you first." Li Zixuan breathed a sigh of relief. As long as they were fine, everything was fine. He nodded and said, "Thank you." Daoist Sunday, Sun Simiao summoned 2 doctors from the Imperial Physician Department. He planned to clean and bandage Li Zixuan in this room. Han Yushi quickly brought Hu out of the door. "Daoist son, how is your illness?" Inside the room, Li Zixuan gritted his teeth as he endured the doctor's bandaging while looking at Sun Simiao, who was examining old Hu's injuries. If it weren't for what happened today, he would have come to see Sun Simiao treat Hu Jing and his younger brother in the morning. In the end, he didn't come. Instead, he sent old Hu over. It could be said that the family of 3 was reunited in the Imperial Medical Department. Sun Simiao replied, "As expected, Hu is only born with a stutter. He is not mentally retarded. I will perform acupuncture on him for a few days and prescribe him some special medicine. In less than 10 days, he should be able to speak fluently." Li Zixuan looked at Hu Jing next to him with joy. The little fatty scratched his head and smiled gratefully at him. Sun Simiao continued, "As for Hu Jing, alas, this child was born with a natural blockage in her Tong Zichang acupoint and Qingqi acupoint. I previously performed acupuncture on her, but I didn't manage to open these 2 blocked acupoints. I can only supplement it with herbs and acupuncture." Old Hu, who was lying on the bed, said worriedly, "Dr. Sun, can my daughter's eyes be cured? This child can't see at such a young age. What will she do in the future?" Sun Simiao thought for a moment and nodded. "It can definitely be cured. As the saying goes, a rope can cut a wood, and dripping water can penetrate a stone. Her blocked acupoints are not unbreakable, but it will take a lot of time to cure her eyes." Old Hu's eyes widened in surprise. He pleaded excitedly, "Dr. Sun, please save my daughter. I beg divine Dr. Sun to save my daughter. This child has suffered too much since she was young. Every time I see this child's eyes, I, Old Hu, feel heartache. As long as you can help my daughter see the light again, I, Hu Hanyun, am willing to do everything I can and serve you for the rest of my life." Li Zixuan also said, "Priest Sun, since this child's eyes can be cured, please help. You can use whatever herbs you need. All the expenses will be on me." Old Hu said in surprise, "Young master, how can I do that?" Sun Simiao patted Old Hu on the shoulder with a smile and said, "Why not? Xiao Xian is so rich. Who else can pay for him? Don't worry. How can I not save a dying child? This penniless Taoist will definitely save this child." Old Hu said happily, "Thank you, Dr. Sunday. Thank you, young master." Sun Simiao nodded and said, "It's just that it will take a long time to cure this child's eyes, and I have to do acupuncture every day without stopping. But I can only stay in Chang'an for a month. If you want her to see the light again, this child must leave Chang and with me in a month. After her eyes are cured, I will send her back to Chang'an." Old Hu lowered his head and thought for a moment. Sun Simiao was really a person of virtue and prestige. If his child went with him, he should be at ease. So he cupped his hands and said, "Then I will leave my daughter to you, Priest Sunday. I can't repay your kindness. If you need me in the future, I will not hesitate." Li Zixuan suddenly remembered a conversation with Hu Jingjing. He suddenly had an idea and said to Sun Simiao, "Priest Sun, since she will follow you from now on, why don't you teach her some medical skills? I have talked with her before and found that this child is quite interested in medical skills. You have cured countless people in your life, but your strength is limited. Why don't you teach a few disciples and pass down your medical skills so that more people can benefit?" Hearing this, Sun Simiao's eyes lit up. He stroked his beard and said, "This child is indifferent. She is quite suitable to learn medicine. I will teach her some basic medical knowledge in the next 2 days. If this child is really talented, I will accept her as my disciple." Old Hu said happily, "Thank you, divine doctor." Sun Simiao was the best doctor in the Tang Empire. If his daughter learned medicine from him, she would have another survival skill in the future. This was a great kindness. After half an hour, Li Zixuan's wounds were all bandaged. Sun Simiao asked someone to send a clean set of clothes. Li Zixuan changed hastily and went out to find Han Yushi, planning to go home. Han Yushi saw that Li Zixuan's clothes were messy and hurried over to help him tidy up his clothes. This ambiguous posture made Li Zixuan's index finger twitch. If it wasn't for the wrong place, he really wanted to do this girl. Sun Simiao coughed dryly behind her. Han Yushi hurriedly helped Li Zixuan tidy up his clothes. Li Zixuan looked and found that from the outside, it was impossible to tell that he had been injured today. Only then did he nod his head in satisfaction. Old Hu's injuries were too serious, and it was inconvenient for him to move. Hu actually had to stay by Sun Simiao's side recently. As expected, Hu had to stay in the Imperial Medical Department to take care of her father. Therefore, when they returned, only Li Zixuan and Han Yushi were with them. Chapter 144. Yonglane, Li Residence. Ever since Li Zixuan returned to his room in the morning with his sword and left on his horse, the entire Li residence was in chaos. When the servant girl returned to the east courtyard and reported what had happened to Madame Li almost fainted from shock. She hurriedly sent someone to invite Li Jingma back from the West City. When Li Jingma returned, he heard that Han Tianhu's daughter had been taken away and that his son had disobeyed the imperial decree and gone to the village alone to save her. He was so angry that his face darkened. He couldn't help but curse. This unfilial son. Ouch. Who are you calling an unfilial son? Our son is in danger now. As his father, you don't think of a way to save him. Instead, you're making sarcastic remarks. Are you Xian'er's father or not? Mrs. Li was already anxious. Now that she heard her husband scold her precious son as an unfilial son, how could she hold herself back? She used a 9-yin white bone claw to viciously vent her anger on Li Jingma's waist. When Li Jingma heard the second half of his wife's words, his already dark face became as dark as the bottom of a pot. However, due to his wife's many years of power, he didn't dare to say anything. He could only wave his hand and say, "Madam, calm down. Your husband will think of a way right now." Oof. Madame Li released her hand hatefully. Li Jingma rubbed his waist as his mind raced to think of a way. His unfilial son's words were of course words spoken in anger. His concern for his son was no less than his wife's. "Madam, don't be anxious. Your husband will personally go to Duke Lu's residence to ask for help. Duke Lu treats Xian like a nephew. He is also a veteran who has led troops for many years. He will definitely be able to save Xian." Li Jingma thought about it and felt that this was the only way at present. Madame Li said anxiously, "Then go quickly, master." Li Jingma nodded and spurred his horse out the door. An hour later, Li Jingma returned. "Master, how is it? Is Duke Lu willing to save Xian'er?" Madame Li asked as soon as Li Jingma entered. Li Jingma handed the reins to the servant and said to his wife, "Madam, I just went to the house of Duke and didn't run into Duke Lu." The servants in their house said that Duke Lu and Duke Yi brought their family to save Han Yushi and Xian. Madame Li said in pleasant surprise, "That's great. Master, with Duke Lu and Duke Yi taking action, our Xian'er won't be in any danger, right?" When Li Jingma saw his wife looking at him expectantly, he hurriedly nodded affirmatively and comforted her. Of course, High Duke Lu and High Duke Yi were both great generals who could fight against 100 men on their own back in the day. The two High Dukes didn't even take a few bandits seriously. On the way back, I heard that His Majesty had sent 1,000 Yulin guards to assist Xian in exterminating the bandits. Madam, don't worry. Xian will definitely be fine. Madame Li was slightly relieved. When she heard the second half of Li Jingma's words, she said in disbelief, "Master, Xian defied the imperial edict and didn't answer the summons. Not only did His Majesty not punish him, He even sent troops to help Xian Er. What's the reason for this? Li Jingma was also somewhat bewildered. He shook his head and said, I don't know. Let's just wait for Xian Er to return safely. The couple waited for half a day. During this time, Lan Er and Iron Egg also heard about this matter. Although the two little ones were anxious, this was an adult matter, and they couldn't help much. Thus, the two children stayed in the front hall and waited with Li Jingma and his wife. The servants in the house also noticed that the atmosphere in the house wasn't right today. Every one of them was extremely careful, afraid that they would make a mistake. In the evening, Sanbao rushed in and said excitedly, Master, madam, the Yulin Guard have already entered the city. Young Master and young Miss Yushi are inside and will probably be back soon. Madam Li stood up excitedly and looked at Li Jingma. She said in a trembling voice, Master, Xian Er is back. Xian Er is back. As she spoke, she couldn't help but cry. Although Li Jingma comforted her that her son would be fine, she had waited for so long without seeing her son. God knew how much suffering she had experienced as a mother. Now that she finally heard the news of her son's safe return, her suspended heart finally settled. Li Jingma patted Madam Li's shoulder lightly and said with a smile, Madam, you don't have to worry now. I said before that Xian Er will be fine. At this time, Lan Er also cried out happily, Mother, don't cry. Lan Er knows that Big Brother is the best. He will definitely be fine. Iron Egg heard that his sister and young master were fine, and he couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. After waiting for half an hour, what they waited for wasn't Li Zishuan, but their family's white horse. Madam Li asked the horse carriers where Li Zishuan went and was told that Li Zishuan and Han Yushi had gone to the Imperial Medical Department to visit Hu Hanyan. When Madam Li heard this, she was secretly annoyed at her son's thoughtlessness. He didn't even know to come back and see his parents first. It wasn't until nightfall that Li Zishuan led Han Yushi back home. Lan was the first to run over. She held Li Zishuan's hand and asked, Big brother, are you okay? Lan Er and Mother were worried sick. When Li Zishuan heard this, he patted Lan Er's head with heartache and said, Big brother is fine. Madam Li and Li Jingma also walked out at this time. Madam Li hurriedly stepped forward and held Li Zishuan's arms with both hands. She carefully examined Li Zishuan's body for a while before saying, Xian Er, are you hurt? Li Zishuan hurriedly pretended to be relaxed and said, Mother, I'm not hurt at all. Don't worry, I've learned martial arts for so many years. I'm very powerful. Lan Er interjected. Mother, you see, Lan Er already said that Big Brother's martial arts are the best. He'll definitely be fine. At this time, Iron Egg ran over to greet Li Zishuan first. Then, he went to Han Yushi's side and asked softly, Big sister, are you okay? Han Yushi shook her head and whispered, Big sister is fine. At this time, Madam Li looked at Han Yushi with a complicated expression. Every mother was selfish when it came to their children. She did like Han Yushi before, but today her son was in danger because of her. Madam Li's heart more or less had a knot in it. Miss Han, it's good that you're okay. Madam Li thought for a long time, but still said this in a neutral tone. Han Yushi's pretty face turned pale when she heard these obviously distant words. She immediately realized that Madam Li had distanced herself from her because of what happened today. She was so anxious that tears almost rolled out. She held back her sadness and hurriedly bowed down. Madam, it's Yushi's fault. Yushi caused young Master to be in danger. Yushi has let Master and Madam down. Li Zishuan also heard the coldness in his mother's words. He secretly thought that it was a good thing that he went to the Imperial Medical Department first. Otherwise, if he came back covered in blood, wouldn't his mother turn the sky upside down? He quickly went over to help Han Yushi up and said to his mother, Mother, you can't blame Yushi for this. Those bandits kidnapped her mainly to get the formula for our family's new wine from her. In fact, it's still my fault. If I didn't ask Yushi to help me brew wine, she wouldn't have gone through this disaster now. On the way back, Han Yushi told Li Zishuan everything that had happened during the time when she was captured. When Madam Li heard Li Zishuan's words that were obviously protective of Han Yushi, she couldn't help but roll her eyes at her son. She thought to herself that her son had forgotten his mother when he had a wife. She couldn't help but say unhappily, "Mother didn't blame you, she. Why are you in such a hurry to jump out and say this?" Actually, she just had a nod in her heart. She didn't really have a problem with Han Yushi. Li Jingma saw that the atmosphere was awkward, so he quickly coughed dryly and said, "Cough, cough, Xin. Yushi, you haven't eaten yet, right? Don't stand here. Go in, madam, go in too. Cough, cough." Lan also chimed in, "That's right, mother. Hurry up and eat." Lan didn't even eat lunch. She's hungry and thin. Puffed. Madam Li couldn't help but laugh. She poked Lan Er's forehead with her finger and said angrily, "You little girl, you only know how to eat." Chapter 145. Yunshi Building, Private Room. Bang! You dog. Han Yushi is Qin Xiong's adopted daughter. Why didn't you investigate clearly? Now, not only did you not get the formula, but you also made enemies on all sides. This time, I'm in big trouble because of you. The second young master of the Wang family was no longer as calm and composed as before. At this moment, his eyes were spitting fire, and he was like a mad demon. Although the great expert Xiao Ying's head was broken, he still did not dare to make any movements. He could only let the blood roll down from his forehead and down his cheeks. In fact, he felt wronged in his heart. Han Yushi had just become Qin Xiong's adopted father. How would he know? Young master. Xiao Ying wanted to explain, but the young master waved his hand and said with a dispirited face, "It's over. It's all over. This time, we have offended almost half of the forces of the imperial court and the military. It seems that this young master will directly lose the qualification for this family trial." Azure Dragon Lane. Young master, this is what happened. The Yulin Guards, the Eastern Palace Guards, Duke Liu, Duke Yi, Duke Wu, and General Niu all came together. In the end, of the 1,128 bandits of the Bloody Wind Stockade, except for the 82 who were killed by Li Zishuan, the rest were captured by the Yulin Guards. Li Zishuan was slightly injured, and Han Yushi was safe and sound. In an exquisite room, Leng Yao was reporting to Wang Renbiao in detail what happened during the day in the Bloody Wind Stockade. Wang Renbiao gasped after listening. First, he was shocked by the relationship between Li Zishuan and the military leaders in the imperial court. Second, he was shocked by Li Zishuan's shocking fighting strength. Alas, in order to defeat me, my second brother actually came up with such a stupid idea. I'm afraid he can't stay in Chang'an anymore. I'll write a letter and tell my father everything. As for my second brother's punishment, I'll let the family make the decision. But this time, it's all thanks to you. If you hadn't told Li Zishuan Han Yushi's location, I'm afraid that Han Yushi would have already met with misfortune. If that happened, it wouldn't be easy to deal with this matter. Our Wang family would also have offended too many powers because of this. Although the Wang clan was one of the 5 clans and 7 watch clans and had a deep foundation, if they were to directly go against these high-ranking military bigwigs, the Wang clan would not be able to withstand it. At this time, the 5 families did not have an absolute advantage in the imperial court. The first reason was that the Guanlong military group was still very powerful at that time. The second reason was that the emperor wanted to suppress it. The third reason was that the imperial examination system was vigorously implemented, which led to the appearance of many concubine court officials. Their only advantage at this time was the public opinion of the world and their unparalleled right to speak as a landowning household. Leng Yao shook her head and continued. The Jianghu expert's second young master recruited, Flying Snake, was also killed by Li Zishuan with a single sword strike. Li Zishuan's combat strength is infinitely close to the Grandmaster level. If young master wants to be his enemy in the future, you must be careful. Xiao Ying heard the news before the imperial court's army arrived and fled in advance. Wang Renbiao said in surprise, "Li Zishuan is actually that formidable? This young master really did not expect it. But Yao why do you always think that I will become enemies with Li Zishuan? I am currently working with him, so you shouldn't always look at things based on your personal grudges." Leng Yuyao was still expressionless. She said coldly, "Young master, Yu Yao is not saying this because she hates Li Zixuan. Yu Yao is just relying on her intuition that young master and Li Zixuan will become enemies in the end. Wang Rinbiao asked curiously, "Oh, why is that?" Lung Yuyao replied, "Because young master and Li Zixuan are both equally outstanding people." Wang Rinbiao. After a while, Lung Yuyao broke the silence. Young master, Li Junxian personally led a group of 100 cavalry out of the city today. Yu Yao guesses that it is very likely to be to investigate second young master's kidnapping of Han Yushi. Wang Rinbiao's expression became unprecedentedly grave. He stood up and said, "It seems like second brother, the mastermind behind the scenes, will be exposed soon. This won't do. If I want to save second brother's life, I'm afraid that I'll have to have my father personally make a trip to Chang'an." Yaoer, grind the ink. "I'll write a letter right now." Lung Yuyao frowned unwillingly. Second young master was against young master before. Why are you still helping him now? Wang Rinbiao scratched Lung Yuyao's nose in amusement and sighed. "Although he doesn't treat me as an older brother, I have always treated him as a younger brother." Lung Yuyao's face turned slightly red. She still said unhappily, "Young master is so magnanimous, but second young master will definitely not remember your kindness." Wang Rinbiao smiled and shook his head, not replying. Taiji Palace. It was still brightly lit. "Paying respects to your majesty." Li Junxian bowed. Li Er nodded and asked, "Junxian, have you found out who ordered these bandits?" Replying to your majesty, according to this general's investigation, the person who contacted the bandit leader Song Tiandao is called Xiao Ying, the shopkeeper of Yunshi Pavilion. He intended to kidnap Han Yushi to obtain the recipe for immortal intoxication and gentle softness. The owner of immortal intoxication is Wang Rini, the bastard son of Sui Province's Governor Wang Yu. His birth mother is Cui Qinfang of the Cui family of Qinghe. When Wang Yu married Princess Tong, and Li Yuan was only a duke and had not yet started a rebellion. At that time, Princess Tong and was still not a princess. Thus, it was not against the law for Wang Yu to take a concubine. After hearing Li Junxian's report, Li Er frowned deeply. He said unhappily, "Under the feet of the Son of Heaven, this Wang Rini actually dared to collude with bandits and kidnap Shu Bao's adopted daughter. He is truly audacious. Moreover, immortal intoxication and gentle softness have already become the imperial wine of the palace. Wang Rini dared to dream of getting his hands on them. I would like to issue an edict to ask Wang Yu how he disciplined him. If Wang Rini was here, he would definitely cry out that he had been wronged. Firstly, he did not know that Han Yushi was Qin Xiong's adopted daughter. Secondly, he did not know that immortal intoxication and gentle softness were the imperial wine of the palace. If he had known either of these points, he would definitely not have done so. This was completely a disaster caused by the lack of information. Tonight, Chang'an City was not peaceful. Those who were observant would be able to find out what had happened during the day. Thus, those who had hedonistic sons were all taught not to offend the girl called Han Yushi. Of course, they could not offend Li Zixuan either. The military forces supporting them were simply too powerful. Yongla Lane, Li Mansion. This place was filled with laughter. Li Zixuan did not even have time to eat lunch. Later on, he had used up so much energy that he was so hungry that his chest was sticking to his back. Now that he saw a table full of delicious food, how could he endure it? Not long later, he was full to the point of groaning. Just as he was about to go outside for some fresh air and digestion, he heard Li Jingma say, "Shina, sleep early tonight. You still have to attend the morning court tomorrow." Li Zixuan opened his eyes wide in disbelief. "Father, why do I have to attend the morning court?" If he attended the morning court, he would not be able to sleep in. He did not want to attend the morning court. Li Jingma said angrily, "His Majesty sent someone to pass on a message this afternoon. He wants you to attend the morning court tomorrow. You have to go this time. You disobeyed the edict today. Later on, you will have to write a memorial to ask for forgiveness. Go and ask for forgiveness tomorrow." Li Zixuan was dumbfounded. Chapter 146. Li residence, study. Xian. Why are you looking for me? Why are you being so secretive? After dinner, Li Zixuan quickly invited his mother to the study while everyone else went back to their rooms to rest. Li Zixuan smiled as he poured a cup of tea and handed it to Mrs. Li. Mother, have some tea. Mrs. Li looked at her son suspiciously, but still took the teacup. She took a sip and asked, Xian, why are you looking for me? Tell me. Li Zixuan laughed dryly. Hee hee. Mother, look at what you're saying. Can I chat with you if I have nothing to do? Mrs. Li rolled her eyes and said in disbelief, TSK, do you think I don't know you? You've been back for so long, and when have you ever chatted with me? If you have something to say it quickly. Li Zixuan was embarrassed. No one knew him better than his mother. He said awkwardly, Mother, what do you think of Yushi? Mrs. Li replied in confusion, She's okay. What's wrong? Li Zixuan scratched his head and said embarrassedly, Mother, I want to. Mrs. Li saw her son's shy and stuttering look. She thought for a moment and immediately understood. She couldn't help but find it funny. She had just told her husband about this a few days ago. She had already been looking for a matchmaker to arrange this matter. She didn't expect her son to be so impatient. Mrs. Li deliberately teased, Xian wants to get married? Although Li Zixuan was a little embarrassed. If he didn't step forward to arrange this matter, was he going to wait for Han Yushi to bring it up? Li Zixuan couldn't do such an irresponsible thing. Mother, I want to marry Yushi. What do you think? Mrs. Li was relieved. This blockhead of a son was finally enlightened. Hee. Mother has already arranged this matter for you. In a few days, a matchmaker will go to Han Tianhu's house to propose marriage. Mrs. Li smiled. Li Zixuan opened his mouth in surprise. Mother, how did you know? Mrs. Li said unhappily, Mother carried you for 10 months and gave birth to you. How could Mother not know what you're thinking? Hee, you just have to stay at home and wait for your bride to come in. Li Zixuan was also very happy that his mother was so considerate. He smiled and said, Thank you, Mother. Thinking that her son was about to have a family and start a career, Mrs. Li was truly happy. She got up and said with a smile, Well, look at how proud you are. Go back and rest. You still have to go to the morning court tomorrow. After Madame Li finished speaking, she went out with a smile. The next day, after the bell and drum of Chong and city had been struck 4 times, the lights in the Li mansion began to be lit one by one. The maids and servants were busy lighting the fire and boiling water, preparing to wash their masters and make breakfast. The groom washed the horse clean. Li Jingma and Madame Li hurried back and forth, not daring to be careless in the slightest. Today was their son's first official appearance in court. Last time, Li Zixuan had been summoned by Li Er to denounce him for his crimes, not to have an official appearance. Li Zixuan was still asleep when he was pulled up. Mrs. Li gave Xiao He a strict order. The little girl ignored Li Zixuan's muddle-headed complaints and wiped his face and brushed his teeth. The bitterness of the willow branches didn't drive away Li Zixuan's sleepiness. He put on the official uniform and the golden crown. He was underage, so he couldn't wear the official hat. He changed into thin deerskin boots and fastened the ceremonial sword to his belt. He came to the front hall and ate a big bowl of porridge hastily. He felt a little less sleepy, so he checked his equipment again. Under the gaze of the whole family, he got on the horse and went out. It was about 4 o'clock in the morning, and it was not yet time to open the doors. The entire market was quiet, and a cold crescent moon was hanging in the sky. Shouldn't they be lying on their beds and sleeping comfortably at this time? Li Zixuan couldn't help but criticize the inhumane morning court again. After a long time, the gate was finally opened. Li Zixuan got on the horse and went out of Yongla Lane to Vermilion Bird Avenue. He saw soldiers patrolling the streets, but no other officials passed by. After checking his identity, the soldiers of the warden's office saluted in unison, leaving 2 carrying huge lanterns to lead the way. Taiji Palace was in the north of the city. It was built against the mountain, facing the south with its back to the north. This was the privilege of the imperial family. Of course, it wasn't a big deal for ordinary people to live in the north. Li Er didn't have to care about this. He arrived at the imperial city. From a distance, he saw the brightly lit gate and a crowd of people. They cupped their hands in greeting and chatted amiably. But whether they were smiling sincerely or hiding a knife in their smile, he couldn't tell. Li Zishuan saw the civil and military officials were divided into two groups, clearly separated. He was in a dilemma. He didn't know whether he was a civil official or a military general. Cheng Yaojin came over to solve the problem. He patted Li Zishuan's shoulder vigorously and said in a rough voice, "You brat, why aren't you coming with me? What are you waiting for? Don't tell me you want to join that group of scholars?" Cheng Yaojin ignored the angry glares of Fang Xianling, Zhang Sunwuji, and the other civil officials. He slowly pulled Li Zishuan into the military general group. Li Zishuan argued fiercely in the imperial court last time. He fought with Yuan Wendao and Wei Zheng and was finally conferred the title of Baron Lantian. All the military generals knew him. Besides, after the big commotion in Chang and yesterday, everyone had a direct understanding of Li Zishuan's connections in the military. They knew that this young man shouldn't be offended. So they all nodded kindly to Li Zishuan. Li Zishuan was just a loser in his previous life. He had never been an official and wasn't good at socializing. But he adhered to the principle that people shouldn't be offended by too much courtesy. He bowed respectfully to all the big shots. After one round, his face muscles were stiff from smiling and his neck was sore from nodding. Then he returned to Cheng Yaojin, Qin Xiong, and the others. Li Zishuan went to Qin Xiong and whispered, "Uncle Qin, I didn't answer the summons yesterday. Will His Majesty punish me today?" He heard that Han Yushi was in trouble yesterday, and his heart was in a mess. He didn't have time to care about Li Er's summons. Later, when he returned home, he felt a lingering fear. In his previous life, he had seen many historical dramas. In them, it was said that disobeying an imperial decree was a serious crime. So he was very uneasy now. Qin Xiong stroked his beard and smiled. "It should be fine. Yesterday, His Majesty heard that you disobeyed an imperial decree and was indeed very angry. But later, His Highness the Crown Prince and I mediated between them. His Majesty then calmed down. Today, he shouldn't punish you too much. In fact, disobeying an imperial decree depended on the situation. There was no such thing as disobeying an imperial decree in the laws of previous dynasties. This was a general term for such crimes. 9 familial exterminations wouldn't be used easily. Even the most violent monarchs would use it carefully. If disobeying an imperial decree was disobeying an imperial decree, then there wouldn't be an immortal poet who said that he was a wine immortal. After hearing Qin Xiong's words, Li Zishuan heaved a huge sigh of relief in his heart. He secretly praised Li Chengxian, this brother, and Qin Xiong, this elder, for being too reliable. He bowed deeply to Qin Xiong and thanked him. Many thanks, Uncle Qin. Qin Xiong waved his hand and didn't care. At this time, a servant came forward and shouted, "Go to court." The officials immediately quieted down and lowered their heads. They carried the imperial decree and slowly entered Taiji Palace. Chapter 147. Following the crowd, Li Zishuan entered the Taiji Palace. It was his first time attending the court, so he didn't know where he should stand. Adhering to the principle of not standing out, he quietly hid at the back of the army, where there was a big pillar. After the officials greeted Li Er, the deacon eunuch announced, "If there's something to report, the court is dismissed." The morning court officially began. The first one to stand out was Fang Xianling. Old Fang spoke a lot of words. Li Zishuan listened for a long time before he understood the general idea. The general idea was that the people of Jinzhou, Bazhou, Qinzhou, Luozhou, and other provinces far away from Chang, and had heard that a better plow had appeared near Chang'an. They had gathered at the local government office to petition for the court to give some of the curved plows to them. Li Er waved his hand and ordered the Ministry of Works to increase production and promote the curved plows to the whole country. Li Zishuan listened for a while and felt a little sleepy. He had woken up too early in the morning. He secretly glanced around and saw that no one was paying attention to him. So he leaned against the red pillar behind him and took a nap. At the same time, he couldn't help but feel lucky that he had chosen a good position. This feeling was just like when he was in university. He always sat at the back, and the teacher didn't notice him. It had to be said that Li Zishuan's action was quite confusing. He leaned against the pillar, hugged the table, arched his back, and closed his eyes to sleep. From afar, he looked no different from the other officials. After a while, he fell asleep. Li Zishuan had a strange dream. He dreamed that he was back in university, back in the classroom. On the podium was the beautiful advanced mathematics teacher who had taught him before. She was talking about the Taylor series, which troubled Li Zishuan the most. Strangely, his girlfriend was sitting next to him. After all, his girlfriend and he were not in the same school. In the dream, Li Zishuan didn't raise any questions about this. He held his girlfriend's hand and leaned over the table to chat with her in a low voice. As they chatted, they even started to play kissing in class. Li Zishuan, get up and expand this function into a Taylor series. The teacher slammed the table and yelled at Li Zishuan. Li Zishuan quivered and was immediately startled awake. Lord Li, His Majesty is calling for you. Quickly wake up and let go of my hand. When Li Zishuan opened his eyes, he saw a military official with a face full of pimples and wearing a green robe beside him. The military official was calling him to wake up in a low voice, and at the same time seemed to be pulling his hand. Li Zishuan was shocked. He lowered his head and saw that the hand of his girlfriend in his dream was actually this person's dog paw. No wonder it felt wrong. He felt a chill in his heart and hurriedly threw away the military official's hand. With a face full of fear, he took 2 steps back. At this moment, Li Er's slightly angry voice came from above. Lan Tianju, I asked you a question. Why aren't you answering? All the officials in the hall looked over. Li Zishuan knew that things were not good. Old Li was going to mess with him. Li Zishuan walked forward while thinking of a countermeasure. After a while, he came to the front of the officials and bowed to Li Er. Your Majesty, when I was listening to your Majesty's teachings, I felt as if I was bathing in the holy light. In my mind, I couldn't help but think of the red sun rising, its great light, the magnificent scene of the river flowing out of the water. Your Majesty's words were like pearls, and every sentence contained the truth of heaven and earth. I was meditating and was a little distracted, so I didn't hear what your Majesty said. I am guilty, your Majesty. Please punish me. Cheng Yaojin widened his eyes and looked at Li Zishuan as if he was looking at a monster. He thought to himself, good boy, your skin is so thick. It's almost as thick as mine. Qin Xiong turned his face away and pretended not to know this shameless junior. Li Changxian, who was standing below Li Er, didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he looked at his good brother. This was the first time he saw Li Zishuan being so shameless. Some of the civil officials were shocked, but most of them were indignant. Scholars valued integrity. As a baron of the Great Tang, Li Zishuan actually flattered Li Er in such a blatant manner to cover up his crime. This was too shameless. He could be called a treacherous traitor. Li Er's face darkened. He had clearly seen the little movements of Li Zishuan and that military official from his seat above. He had not expected that Li Zishuan would come up with such blatant lies, his mouth full of nonsense. Moreover, he could make the matter of sleeping in court sound so fresh, refined, and reasonable. In the entire Great Tang, perhaps only this brat could do such a thing? Shut up. Li Er angrily slapped the dragon table and pointed at Li Zishuan. He was burning with anger, but he didn't know how to reprimand Li Zishuan. Li Er took a few deep breaths and calmed himself down. Then he said again, I just said, Lord Lan Tian, you disobeyed the imperial decree yesterday. What should be your punishment? Qin Xiong had already told him about this matter. Li Zishuan already had an idea in his heart. Li Er was probably trying to scare him. Li Zishuan pretended to be terrified and bowed down. Your Majesty, I am young and inexperienced. I didn't know the severity of the matter and was confused for a moment. I made a big mistake. Your Majesty, please punish me. All right, I'm only 14 years old. I'm young and don't know any better. You are the emperor. You can't be so calculated with a kid, right? Moreover, as to why I disobeyed the imperial decree, I'm sure you know the reason better than anyone. Li Zishuan thought to himself. This was the advantage of being young. Li Er choked on Li Zishuan's words. It was rare for someone to be conferred a title at the age of 14. After experiencing so many things, Li Er had almost forgotten Li Zishuan's true age. The matter of disobeying the imperial decree, there's a reason for it. I can temporarily not pursue it. Li Zishuan quickly thanked him. Thank you, your majesty, for your kindness. Li Er said in annoyance. Don't be in a hurry to thank me. I haven't finished speaking. A few days ago, I heard that you made immortal drunken wine in Gentle Village, as well as red braised meat, red braised lion's head, and other dishes. When Li Er said this, some of the officials in the hall couldn't help but swallow their saliva. It was obvious that these people had eaten the new dishes and drunk the new wine of the drunken immortal restaurant. When Li Er mentioned this, although his mouth was a little greedy, he still continued to speak with a serious face. As a baron of a country, you don't do proper work. Instead, you spend all your time studying, eating, and drinking. What a scandal. A few days ago, the Imperial College's mathematics doctor, Lu Qingshan, retired. I originally planned to let Su Hongji teach on his behalf, but Mr. Su wrote a letter saying that your mathematics ability was above his and recommended you to teach. After much consideration, I have decided to appoint you as the Imperial College's mathematics doctor. You will take up the post tomorrow. Li Zishuan was immediately dumbfounded. Letting him teach a group of hedonistic brats, wasn't this a scam? How could this be more comfortable than being an otaku at home and hugging his goddess? Old Li couldn't bear to see him idle. Your majesty, this official's talent is shallow. I'm afraid I can't take on this heavy responsibility. Li Zishuan weakly protested. Li Er waved his sleeves and said decisively, Stop talking nonsense. If I tell you to go, then go. Do you still want to disobey the imperial decree? After he finished speaking, he stared at Li Zishuan with a murderous gaze. Li Zishuan felt Li Er's deep malice and full of threat. He secretly scolded Li Er for not talking about human rights and democracy and for forcing women into prostitution. This official obeys the imperial decree. All right, the arm can't win against the thigh. Li Zishuan could only admit defeat. Only then did Li Er nod his head in satisfaction. He looked at the group of civil officials and said, Chancellor Kong, from now on, Li Zishuan will be supervised by you at the Imperial College. If this person is lazy, late, or leaves early, inform me. I will deal with him. An elegant white-haired old man walked out and bowed. This old official obeys the imperial decree. Li Zishuan secretly wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. Not only did old Li give him work, he even sent an old man to be his supervisor. The imperial court schemes are deep. I have to go back to the countryside. I can't live like this anymore. Chapter 148. Imperial Palace, Taiji Palace. Li Zishuan, who felt that there was no more joy in life, wanted to return to his original position, but was interrupted by a cold snort from Li Er. He obediently walked to the position that Li Er pointed to, which was the 6th row of the civil officials. In front of him stood Chancellor Kong, who had previously stepped forward to answer. Li Zishuan guessed that this Chancellor Kong should be Kong Yingda. This little old man was quite famous in the Tang dynasty. Li Zishuan had heard of him in the future. The morning court session was still going on. Li Zishuan stood there listlessly with his head drooped as he listened to the various big shots tear each other apart. Although the battle was intense, he was not interested in it at all. This kind of scheming imperial court really did not suit him. There was no table in front of him to lie down on and no pillar behind him to lean on. Standing in this awkward position, Li Zishuan could not fall asleep even if he wanted to. After waiting in a daze for nearly 2 hours, the morning court session finally ended. Li Zishuan could not help but want to look up to the sky and howl. It finally ended. After moving his sore thighs and rubbing his hungry stomach, Li Zishuan followed the civil and military officials out of the main hall and prepared to go home to eat. He saw that the person walking in front of him was Kong Yingda. He thought that in the future, he would be going to the Imperial College to teach. This old man was equivalent to the principal of the Imperial College. In order to ensure that he would not be bullied in the future, he had to pay his respects and build a good relationship with the leader. Chancellor Kong, please wait. When Kong Ingda heard someone calling him, he slowed down his footsteps. Li Zixuan quickly walked forward and cupped his hands. This little one greets Mr. Kong. Mr. Kong has abandoned the regional prejudice of the southern and northern schools. Mr. Kong is a famous scholar of the present age. This little one has admired Mr. Kong for a long time. This little one feels extremely honored to be able to work under Mr. Kong in the future. As the saying goes, flattery never fails. Li Zixuan came up and started to flatter Kong Ingda. However, Kong Ingda had experienced the vicissitudes of life and was indifferent to fame and fortune. Li Zixuan's flattery had no effect on him. He looked at Li Zixuan with his wise eyes and said with a smile that was not a smile, "If this old man remembers correctly, Lan Tianjue should belong to the Taoist lineage, right? Why would he admire our Confucian culture?" Li Zixuan almost choked to death in an instant. He secretly thought that this old man was not an easy character to get along with. He laughed dryly and said, "Master, I'm afraid that you are mistaken. So what if it's Confucianism or Taoism?" Back then, Kong Shi eliminated the views of the Confucian school of scripture and the Taoist school of thought, and selected the best school of thought from the various schools of thought. Thus, he brought an end to the various disputes that had existed since the Western Han Dynasty. Later on, he abandoned the prejudice of the northern and southern schools of thought and embraced the various schools of thought. He merged the northern and southern schools of thought together and preserved the results of the Western Han Dynasty. This way, the teachings of the predecessors would not disappear and the scholars of the future generations would be able to look up to him. Since Kong Shi was able to embrace different schools of thought within the Confucian school, why couldn't he jump out of the Confucian school and look at the other schools of thought with a tolerant attitude? Since ancient times, the existence of the two schools of thought is reasonable. Confucianism and Taoism have existed for thousands of years, and there are many similarities between the two schools of thought. Why can't they learn from each other's strengths and make up for their weaknesses? Li Zixuan was just speaking casually. However, as he spoke, he couldn't help but reveal some of his understanding of Confucianism and Taoism from the depths of his mind. In the memories that he inherited, he had an extremely deep impression of the Taoist school of thought. Kong Ingda had previously seen Li Zixuan flatteringly Erda without a shred of integrity in the imperial court, so he had some contempt for Li Zixuan. Hearing Li Zixuan's words now, he couldn't help but praise in his heart that this kid really had some real talent. He couldn't help but clap his hands and laugh. What a good existence is reasonable. What a good learn from each other's strengths to make up for their weaknesses. Your understanding of the Confucian and Taoist schools of thought is truly insightful. Not bad, not bad. Child, since you have such talent, why did you try to flatter the emperor in the royal court? How can a scholar not have strength of character? Seeing that Li Zixuan was a talent that could be molded, Kong Ingda couldn't help but offer a few more words of advice, hoping that Li Zixuan would realize his mistake and mend his ways. Li Zixuan sweated inwardly. It turned out that his performance in the royal court had left these civil officials with a bad impression of flattery. He couldn't help but curse these civil officials. They could have strength of character, admonishing the emperor and leaving their name for generations to come. However, he didn't want these empty titles. He only wanted to hug his wife and live happily for the rest of his life. What did the strength of a scholar have to do with him? Master Kong, this child has just entered the royal court and isn't clear about the matters of the royal court. Today, when I was reprimanded by His Majesty, this child recalled the time when I was young and was scolded by my master for doing something wrong. This is why this child spoke without thinking. Master Kong, please don't take offense. Li Zixuan racked his brains and came up with an excuse that wasn't an excuse. Right now, I'm still a child. You big shots have the nerve to talk to me about the strength of a scholar? What kind of person was Kong Ingda? He immediately understood the meaning behind Li Zixuan's words. Only now did he remember Li Zixuan's age and couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. He stroked his beard to alleviate the awkwardness. Cough, this old man naturally won't blame you. I just hope that when you take up a post in the Imperial College in the future, you will do your best to educate people. This old man believes that a person who can create a curved plow and bring prosperity to the people naturally has an excellent character. He finally managed to settle this new superior. It wasn't easy at all. Li Zixuan secretly let out a sigh of relief. He clasped his hands and said, "This child will remember Master Kong's teachings." Kong Yingda smiled and waved his hand, saying, "All right then. This old man will wait for Lan Tianju to take up his post at the Imperial College tomorrow." The two of them chatted for a while before parting ways. Li Zixuan wanted to chase after Qin Xiong and the others. Han Yushi was going to visit Madame Qin in the morning, so he could bring Han Yushi home while he was at it. Ever since he and Han Yushi revealed their feelings for each other, Li Zixuan always wanted to be by Han Yushi's side. Even if he didn't do anything, just looking at Han Yushi's beautiful face and feeling Han Yushi's gentle personality was also very good. However, Li Zixuan didn't allow him to be idle and always caused trouble for him. Thinking about how he was going to work at the Imperial College tomorrow, Li Zixuan couldn't help but let out a deep sigh. Just as he was about to leave the gate of heaven influence, he heard someone shout from behind, "Sir Li, please wait. His Majesty has something to say." Li Zixuan's face darkened. This was too much. This was too much. What was old Li trying to do? Could he still let him go home to eat? Li Zixuan silently drew countless small circles in his heart, cursing Li Zixuan for not being able to get it up at night. Then, he calmed himself down and turned around. When a servant ran over, Li Zixuan's expression had returned to normal. He asked, "May I ask why His Majesty is looking for me?" The servant took a few deep breaths and said, "Sir, I don't know. Please move. His Majesty is waiting." All right. Damned feudalism. Evil imperial power is supreme. Then let's go. Chapter 149. Greetings, Your Majesty. Li Zixuan followed the eunuch to the inner hall behind Taiji Palace. He saw Li Er eating and drinking at a few tables above. Li Zixuan couldn't help but curse inwardly. "If you want to eat, just eat. Why did you call me over? Do you want to watch you eat?" Li Er swallowed the food in his mouth and nodded at Li Zixuan. "No need for formalities. I asked you to come because I want to show you something. You will definitely be very interested in it." With that, he asked the eunuch beside him to deliver a booklet to Li Zixuan. Li Zixuan received it with both hands and curiously flipped it open. He saw rows of densely packed words without even punctuation marks. Li Zixuan forced himself to endure the discomfort and read on word by word. After reading half of it, Li Zixuan finally understood that what was written on it was actually the investigation report of the kidnapping of Han Yushi yesterday. Li Er was right. Li Zixuan was really interested in this. Yesterday's matter wasn't over yet. The mastermind behind the bandits still hadn't been caught. He perked up and finished reading the entire booklet. Then, he returned the booklet to the eunuch. He was extremely shocked. Yunshi Restaurant hired bandits to kidnap Han Yushi in order to obtain the new wine formula. This was within Li Zixuan's expectations. It was just a matter of interest. What he really didn't expect was that Yunshi Restaurant's owner was Wang Renyi from the Wang family of Taiyuan. Although the booklet didn't mention the relationship between Wang Renyi and Wang Renbiao, Li Zixuan could roughly guess it. The last time Wang Renbiao came to seek cooperation, he said that the reason he came out to do business was because of a trial for his family's disciples. Then, the relationship between Wang Renyi and Wang Renbiao was obvious. Even if they weren't brothers, they were probably close family members. Li Zixuan's expression was uncertain. He had a good impression of Wang Renbiao before, which was why he cooperated with him. However, he didn't know what role Wang Renbiao played in this matter. "Are you done reading? Is there anything you want to say?" Li Zixuan wiped his mouth and asked casually as he looked at Li Zixuan's changing expression. Li Zixuan bowed and said, "Your Majesty, I would like to know how Your Majesty intends to deal with these bandits and the person behind them." Li Er said indifferently, "Han Yushi is Shu Bao's adopted daughter. These lawbreakers should be severely punished. The bandits of the Bloodwind Stockade gathered in the mountains and committed many illegal acts. The bandit leader should be beheaded in public. As for the other accomplices, they should be exiled or dismissed. I have already ordered the Supreme Court to arrest the shopkeeper of the Yunchi restaurant. As for Wang Rini, how do you want me to deal with him? Li Zishuan thought for a moment, then spat out a word with a cold expression. Kill. Anyone who dared to touch his woman, no matter who it was, would have to pay the price. Even though the Wang family was a 1,000-year-old clan, he could easily get a few carts of gunpowder and raze the entire Wang family to the ground. Moreover, Wang Rini was only one person. He could not represent the entire Wang family. Lier raised his eyebrows and said angrily, "You are really a newborn calf that is not afraid of tigers." The Wang family is a rich and powerful clan. Wang Rini's birth mother is from the Chui family in Qinghe. If I kill Wang Rini because of this, won't the Wang family and the Chui family fall out with me? Won't all the noble families in the world be in danger because of this? Li Zishuan was not convinced and said, "Your Majesty, you are the ruler of a country. Our Tang Empire has many fierce generals. How can we be afraid of these aristocratic families?" Lier stared and said, "How dare you? The affairs of aristocratic families are not as simple as you think. How much do you know? Don't use these words to provoke me. Wang Rini's birth father, Wang Yu, married my imperial aunt. I must give him some face. Wang Rini cannot be killed. At most, I will make sure he never appears in Chang'an. Wang Yu will come to Chang'an soon. He will talk to you about this." Li Zishuan did not give up and said, "Your Majesty, you really can't kill him?" Lier angrily threw a book on the table at Li Zishuan. However, Li Zishuan cleverly dodged it. Lier said angrily, "Why is your killing intent stronger than mine? You are from the Taoist school." But then again, Han Yushi did not suffer any harm in this matter. She is not anxious. Why are you so anxious? Li Zishuan said, "Your Majesty, Han Yushi is already my fiancée. Of course I am anxious." I see. No wonder you're jumping around like someone stepped on your tail. All right, let's end this matter here. Don't think about killing people in private to vent your anger. Unless you don't want to be a baron anymore and want to take your family and flee for the rest of your life. Lier made the final decision and drew an imperfect end to this matter. Li Zishuan was helpless. He really wanted to wait for Wang Rini to leave Chang and to kill him. He did not expect to be blocked by Lier's last sentence, which was slightly threatening. "Your Majesty, if Wang Rini threatens my family again in the future, even if your Majesty does not kill him, I will definitely do it. Even if the Wang family and the Chui family join forces to seek revenge, I am willing to bear alone. At most, I will perish together with tens of thousands of people from the two families. I definitely have the ability to do so. Since he could not kill him this time, he had to be prepared. If Wang Rini did not give up and continued to court death, then he, Li Zishuan, would not be polite." Lier narrowed his eyes and said with a smile that was not a smile, "Hey, you brat, talk big. But don't worry. After Wang Rini returns to the Wang family, he definitely won't have the ability to stand out again, let alone have the ability to deal with you. Oh, by the way, I have seen the trial of the Supreme Judiciary and found that the bandits of Xiefeng Stockade Village also did a case 2 months ago. You were there at that time, right? It is said that you were sneakily attacked and fell off the cliff." Lier paused for a moment and then continued. But his eyes were full of gossip and ridicule. Li Zishuan was speechless. Lier was so shameless and always exposed people's shortcomings. "Your Majesty, it was my first time to go down the mountain, and I did not know how sinister people were. I was careless and was killed by a villain." Lier laughed and said, "I did not expect that an immortal like you would almost be killed by a group of bandits. Haha. Your Majesty, what happened to the girl in the end? Was she taken away by the bandits?" Li Zishuan's heart stirred as he changed the topic. "No. Later, the soldiers arrived and the bandits fled. The soldiers took advantage of the chaos and caught the second and third leaders of Xiefeng Stockade Village." "Why? You saved the beauty. Did you take a fancy to her?" Lier asked with a smile. Lier is so shameless." Li Zishuan quickly shook his head and said, "Your Majesty, what are you talking about? When I see injustice on the road, I draw my sword to help. I did not even see the girl from the beginning to the end. How could I like her?" Lier was surprised and said, Haha, I did not expect you to be so chivalrous. A few days ago, I heard that you gave Shu Bao 2 bottles of medicinal wine. I saw that Shu Bao's complexion had greatly improved these 2 days. You did a good job. Li Zishuan hurriedly said, Uncle Qin treats me like a nephew. This is what I should do. Lier nodded with relief and said, Okay, then you can leave. Li Zishuan suddenly thought of something and asked, Well, Your Majesty, I want to ask if the doctor of the Imperial College needs to attend the morning court? Lier thought that this kid was good, but now he almost spat out blood when he heard this. He really wanted to take him out and chop him up to feed the dogs. Lier impatiently waved his hand and said, No, get out. The doctor of the Imperial College belonged to the lower 5th rank. Only officials of the 5th rank and above were qualified to attend the morning court every day. Li Zishuan happened to be at the threshold. Hearing that he did not need to attend the morning court in the future, Li Zishuan did not mind Lier's bad tone at all. He smiled and bowed to Lier and said, I will leave. Then, he retreated out of the room. Lier looked at Li Zishuan's back. After a long time, he suddenly felt funny and shook his head and murmured, This kid, I have nothing to do. Why should I bother with him? Chapter 150. In the back hall of Taiji Palace, Lier supported his chin with his hand and was thinking about what Li Zishuan had said. The foundation of the 5 surnames and 7 hopes was too huge, and they had a high reputation everywhere. It was easier said than done to weaken the aristocratic families. The eunuch in the hall picked up the memorial that Lier had used to hit Li Zishuan and carefully placed it beside Lier's hand. Then, he quietly retreated to the side. Lier's eyes inadvertently swept over and realized that the memorial was the secret memorial that Qin Xiong had presented to him yesterday. It was over. He was so angry that he forgot about the important matter. Men, quickly summoned Li Zishuan back. Lier hurriedly ordered. Yes. Although the eunuch was puzzled, he did not dare to ask. He quickly retreated and chased after Li Zishuan. Waves, waves, waves. I don't need to go to court and don't wake up early. I'll sleep until daybreak tomorrow. Li Zishuan happily walked on the palace road. Although he was unable to kill the mastermind behind the scenes, Lier had promised him that Wang Rinyi would not come to provoke him in the future. More importantly, he would no longer have to attend this damned morning court. Guessing that Han Yushi should have come out of Qin Manor by now, Li Zishuan planned to go home and eat. He only had a bowl of porridge in the morning and did not even eat a steam bun. Now, he was so hungry that his chest was sticking to his back. He almost forgot that the steam buns of the Tang dynasty were too disgusting. They were sour and had a strange taste. He once vomited after eating a mouthful. Lordly, wait, His Majesty summoned you back. It was the same voice, the same place. Li Zishuan really wanted to jump into the pond and drown. Greetings, Your Majesty. Li Zishuan bowed weakly. You dare not to come back when old Li asked you to? You could say that he was a coward, but if you transmigrated, why don't you try being a coward? Don't make trouble. I just forgot something. I'll let you go after this. When Lier saw Li Zishuan fooling around, he wanted to laugh. He shook his head and said, This is the secret memorial that Shu Bao presented yesterday. Take a look. A servant passed the secret memorial to Li Zishuan. Li Zishuan took it and flipped it open. It was a prophecy about the locust plague. It seemed that Qin Xiong could not wait any longer. Li Zishuan skimmed through it and was stunned when he saw the last few lines. This old subject believes that the prophecy of the plague of locusts is 80% true. I hope that Your Majesty will make early preparations to prevent the plague of locusts from coming. Every time this old official thought about this, I couldn't bear it and boldly wrote a letter to inform His Majesty. If the plague of locusts does not arrive next year, I am willing to relinquish my title of Duke and hand over all of my family's assets to the National Treasury to make up for the losses suffered by the Imperial Court. Li Zishuan was deeply touched. At the time, he had agreed with Qin Xiong to write a joint letter and share the responsibility if something happened. However, he did not expect Qin Xiong to go back on his word and take all of the responsibility. Li Zishuan was both angry and touched. This was an old man worthy of his lifetime of respect. Is the prophecy of the plague of locusts true? Li Er saw Li Zishuan finish reading and asked in a low voice. Li Zishuan sorted out his emotions and said seriously, Your Majesty, my master did say that in June next year there would be a plague of locusts on the Guanzhong plains. I have never doubted my master's word since I was young and am willing to vouch for it. If the plague of locusts does not arrive next year, I am willing to relinquish my title and hand over all of my family's assets to make up for my sins. However, Your Majesty, for the sake of the millions of people in the world, please believe in this prophecy and make early preparations. Since Qin Xiong had bet all of his assets on this prophecy, Li Zishuan had nothing to be afraid of. He had time-traveled to the Tang dynasty. Although he had invented some new things, they were not enough to change the course of history, let alone the timing of a natural disaster like the plague of locusts. The plague of locusts next year would definitely arrive as scheduled. When Li Er heard this, he was slightly surprised. He did not expect Li Zishuan, a person who did not want to suffer losses, to say such words that were obviously harmful to him. This made him take this prophecy even more seriously. Since Shu Bao and you are so sure, then I will believe in this prophecy. However, even if I know that there will be a plague of locusts next year, what can I do? Last year, the Turks emptied the Chong and local government's treasury. The imperial court will not be able to take out so much money to store food for millions of people in advance. When Li Er mentioned the Turks, he could not help but hit the table with hatred. Li Zishuan was silent. The Wei River Alliance was indeed a mark of shame on the Tang dynasty. However, in less than 2 years, Li Er would be able to wash away the shame. He thought for a moment and said, Your Majesty, people only store food in advance to survive the plague of locusts. Why did no one think of controlling the plague of locusts? Li Er frowned and said, Control? Since ancient times, there have been countless plague of locusts. Why have I never heard of a way to control the plague of locusts? Li Zishuan said embarrassedly, Your Majesty, do you still remember the 150,000 chickens I raised in the Han village and Plum village? Li Er widened his eyes and said in disbelief, Do you want to use these chickens to control the plague of locusts? But when the plague of locusts comes, the locusts will be overwhelming. How can your chickens eat all the locusts? Li Zishuan smiled and said, Your Majesty, don't underestimate the ability of chickens to hunt locusts. I once read a book. It said that an adult chicken can eat up to 300 locusts a day. At that time, I estimate that 20 to 30 chickens can almost guarantee that there will be no locusts in 1 acre of land. Since you don't believe me, then let's use data. Anyway, I have said the same thing more than once. Li Er was also a well-read and cultured person. He frowned and said in disbelief, Would there be a book that recorded such a boring thing? Why haven't I seen it before? Li Zishuan choked and said awkwardly, This is the only book left behind by my master. It is long gone, but what I said is true. If your Majesty doesn't believe me, you can send someone to catch a chicken and test it. Li Er nodded thoughtfully. Suddenly, he pointed at Li Zishuan's nose and scolded in a bad mood. No wonder you bought so many chickens. Last time, you deliberately quibbled in the imperial court. You said that you bought the chickens for the farmers and for the chicken feast next year. You are deceiving the emperor. Tell me, what do you think you should be punished for? Old Li was really unkind. He actually killed the donkey after it had outlived its usefulness. Li Zishuan was speechless. He cried out in grievance, Your Majesty, the 2 reasons I mentioned are indeed true. As for the locust plague prophecy, this is a matter of great importance. This humble subject would not dare to speak nonsense. Your Majesty, the Empress said that it is time for lunch. At this time, a delicate palace maid came in and said to Li Er. Li Er nodded. He stood up and said to Li Zishuan, You are a slippery fellow. Later, write a detailed plan of your plan and present it to me. Li Zishuan suddenly felt tired. He said listlessly, As you wish. Li Er was angry when he saw him like this. He resisted the urge to slap Li Zishuan on the back of his head. Li Er flicked his sleeves and said, Okay, then you could go back first. Li Zishuan cupped his hands and left. He complained to Li Er in his heart. He kept me here for half a day and didn't even eat. How stingy. However, it was better that he didn't stay for lunch. There were so many rules in the palace. If he made Old Li unhappy, wouldn't he be looking for trouble? Li Zishuan walked out of the palace quickly. He was afraid that Li Er would send someone to call him back again. He came to the palace gate and found his horse. Li Zishuan tidied his clothes and mounted the horse. He rushed towards Yongle Lane. In the palace, Li Er was on the way to Shi Nei court. He said to the servant beside him, "Go and summon Fong Xianling, Du Ru Hui, and Zhongsun Wuji to the palace for a meeting in the afternoon." "Yes, your majesty." Chapter 151. Yongle Lane, Li Residence. "Young master, you're back." San Bao, who was guarding the door, quickly ran over to take the reins from Li Zishuan's hands. Li Zishuan nodded and walked in. When he came to the front hall, he saw Han Yushi at first glance. She had indeed returned. Other than Han Yushi, Lan Iron Egg, and his parents, Li Zishuan actually noticed that Han Lijing was also here today. "Oh, Uncle Han, you're here today." Li Zishuan greeted him warmly. Han Lijing stood up and cupped his hands to Li Zishuan. "Young master, you're back. I went to Plum Village yesterday and heard that Yushi was kidnapped by bandits when I came back. I was very anxious, but the city gate was already closed at that time. This morning, I rushed over to inquire about the news. I didn't expect that young master had already rescued my daughter. Young master's kindness to my family is as heavy as a mountain." Li Zishuan waved his hand and smiled. "Uncle Han, you don't have to be so polite. Wasn't this nonsense?" Han Yushi was not only Han Lijing's daughter, but also his own wife. Wasn't it natural for him to save his own wife? Everyone exchanged greetings for a while before Madame Li asked the servant to serve the dishes. During the meal, Li Zishuan told the two elders about what happened in the morning court. Li Jingma was immediately overjoyed. This Imperial College's doctor was a glorious position. Father Li was excited. He ordered the servants to inform the kitchen to add more dishes and called Han Lijing to drink and eat. For a moment, the meal was very lively. Li Zishuan was speechless. Not only did his parents not sympathize with him, but they were also excited as if they had picked up money. It was really unreasonable. After the meal, other than Li Zishuan, who was eating gloomily, everyone else ate happily and were satisfied. After dinner, Li Zishuan accompanied his parents and Han Lijing to talk for a while. Then, he went to Minghui Xian to look for Han Yushi. Han Lijing came here today, so Han Yushi would probably go back with him in the afternoon. He had to cherish this last good time. When he arrived at Minghui Xian, he found Han Yushi, Iron Egg, and Lan sitting in the pavilion in the middle of the pond, chatting and laughing. "Sister Yushi, quickly tell me, how did my brother defeat that bandit leader?" "How would I know? I was tied up in a room far away. I couldn't see anything." "Oh, sister, are you hurt?" "Iron Egg, don't worry. I'm fine." Li Zishuan heard their conversation from afar and thought to himself, "Are these two brats done yet? According to their questions, I won't have a chance to be alone with Han Yushi today." He had to think of a way to send them away. "Young master, brother." When the three of them saw Li Zishuan coming over, they all stood up and greeted him. Li Zishuan nodded and asked casually, "Well, Iron Egg, Lan have you memorized the previous multiplication table?" "Master, we have memorized it." "Well, have you done the exercises after class?" Li Zishuan put his hands behind his back and looked like a strict teacher teaching his disciples. Master, not yet." Iron Egg scratched his head and said embarrassedly, "Then go and do the exercises after class for the first chapter. I will check it tonight. Tomorrow, Iron Egg, you will go to the Imperial College with me after you finish practicing." Li Zishuan silently gave himself 32 likes for his wit. Since he was going to teach a group of brats, it wouldn't be illegal to bring his disciples along, right? "Yes, master." Iron Egg was a little reluctant. He hadn't seen his sister for a long time. In the morning, he was practicing and listening to classes. In the afternoon, he finally had time to talk for a while, but he couldn't ignore his master's words. He could only go back unhappily. "Oomph. Smelly brother, Lana wants to go tomorrow too. Li Zishuan thought for a while and said, Okay, as long as Lana can do 90% of the exercises correctly, I will let you go. Okay, it's a deal. Lana smiled slyly and followed Iron Egg to do the exercises. Li Zishuan saw that they had gone far away and laughed. He sat down on the bench next to Han Yushi. Han Yushi was shocked and quickly moved to the side. Li Zishuan touched his nose and said gloomily, Why are you moving so far away? Am I that scary? When Han Yushi heard this, her ears were dyed red. She said in a low voice, Young master, this others will gossip if they see us. Li Zishuan glanced around and said with a smile, Hee hee, don't be afraid. There's no one in this courtyard. Didn't I just send Iron Egg, and the others away? Yushi, did you miss me today? I haven't seen you all morning. Han Yushi was stunned. She didn't expect Li Zishuan to be secretly scheming when he pretended to be a strict teacher lecturing his disciples. Then, she was embarrassed again and said in a mosquito-like voice, Young master, how can you say such shameful things? Li Zishuan saw that Han Yushi's cheeks were red, and she was about to bury her head in her chest. Only then did he realize that he had indeed been a little complacent. This was ancient times. Although the women of the Tang dynasty were more open than the women of the Song and Ming dynasties, they were still not comparable to modern times. However, it was not good for this girl to be too shy. He had to train her slowly when he married her in the future. Yushi, how did you feel when you went to the Qin family this morning? It was impossible to train a shy girl into a modern girl in a day. Li Zishuan had to change the topic. Han Yushi looked up at Li Zishuan and said, Well, my foster mother treats me very well. She even asked me to visit her often. Oh, that's good. Li Zishuan quietly moved his butt towards her and whispered in Han Yushi's ear, Yushi, I told my mother about us yesterday. Han Yushi was shocked by Li Zishuan, who suddenly came up to her. When she heard his words, her heart couldn't help but tighten. She quickly focused and waited for the rest of the story. Li Zishuan smiled in his heart and continued, My mother said that she would send a matchmaker to your house to propose marriage in the next 2 days. As long as your father agrees, the auspicious date will be set. Han Yushi's heart was immediately filled with sweetness. She ignored her shyness and raised her head to look at Li Zishuan affectionately. She said softly, Young master has saved Yushi's life more than once. You don't mind Yushi's humble background and marry Yushi. Yushi will definitely help young master in the future. We will never leave each other and follow each other in life and death. Although her voice was soft, it was sonorous and powerful. It was as serious as if she was making a grand vow. Oh my God, who said that ancient women didn't know how to say romantic words? Li Zishuan's heart melted in an instant. He couldn't help but hug Han Yushi and let her lean on his shoulder. He sniffed the fragrance of her hair and said gently, Silly girl, who dares to say that your status is humble? You're Uncle Qin's foster daughter now. Besides, even if you're just a commoner, I'm still willing to marry you. I only like you as a person. I don't care about being well-matched in terms of social status. When we are married, I don't want you to follow me in life and death. We will live well. I will take you to travel all over the world, eat all the delicacies in the world, and be a celestial couple for 100 years. Han Yushi was shocked by the future life that Li Zishuan described. She said longingly, Young master, you are so good, but how can a person live for so long? Besides, after a few decades, Yushi will become an old woman. Will young master still like her? Haha, won't I become an old man by then? Don't be afraid. I'll be crazy for you for 1,000 years. You will be with me for 10,000 reincarnations. Li Zishuan was full of heroism and laughed loudly. I will be crazy for you for 1,000 years. You will be with me for 10,000 reincarnations. Han Yushi muttered for a while. She couldn't hold it in anymore and burst into tears. Young master, Yushi wants to marry you now. Boo-hoo, good Yushi, don't cry. Li Zishuan hurriedly hugged Han Yushi and coaxed her anxiously. As for whether he was taking advantage of her, only he knew in his heart. Chapter 152. In the front hall. Brother Han, I wonder if your Yushi has been betrothed to him. Madame Li put down the teacup in her hand and asked with a smile. She should have discussed this matter with Han Yushi's mother, but Han Yushi's mother was no longer alive, so she could only talk to Han Lijing. Li Zixuan also looked at Han Lijing. Last night, Madame Li told him about Li Zixuan's thoughts. Han Lijing's heart moved, and he replied, "My daughter has not been betrothed to him." Madame Li smiled. "That's good. My Xian wants to marry Yushi. I see that these two children are quite fated, so why don't our two families become in-laws? What do you think, Brother Han?" Han Lijing was shocked. He did not expect Madame Li to take the initiative to mention this matter. He had been worried about his daughter's marriage. Young master has a high position and is proficient in both the pen and the sword. Naturally, he is a rare son-in-law. But my family is just a small family. I'm afraid we can't match him. Li Jingma smiled. Brother Han, why do you say that? My Li family does not have any prejudice against family backgrounds. Moreover, Yushi is now the adopted daughter of Duke Yi. If we're talking about matchmaking, I'm afraid it's our Li family that is matchmaking, right? Han Lijing quickly stood up and cupped his hands. What are you saying, old master? Our Han family is just a country family. What matchmaking? Since old master and madam do not mind, and my daughter and young master hit it off, then I have no reason to object. Madame Li slapped the table. That's good. 2 days later, I will send the best matchmaker in Chong and to Brother Han's house to propose marriage. Han Lijing was relieved. He cupped his hands and said, I will definitely wait at home. What should go must go. After all, Han Yushi was not his wife yet. Around 3 p.m., Han Lijing brought Han Yushi and left the Li family. Li Zixuan looked at Han Yushi's beautiful back and felt lost. Shaking his head, he returned to his courtyard and called San Bao over. San Bao, have you gotten Faubert to make a blackboard in chalk for me? That day, when he taught Iron Egg and Lawn for the first time, he realized that he was not used to not having chalk and a blackboard. Thus, he wrote down the method of using chalk and blackboard and asked San Bao to send it to the workshop. He asked Faubert to make a batch first. San Bao replied, Young master, it's all done. Yesterday, manager Fu sent someone to send it over. At that time, I saw that young master was busy, so I put the blackboard and chalk in the storeroom. In a primitive society, China had discovered the lacquer tree and knew how to use the sap of the lacquer tree to make paint. During the 5 dynasties, Zhu Zundu wrote the Lacquer Classic, which was the world's earliest lacquer monograph. The Tang dynasty also had various colors of lacquer, so it was not difficult to make a blackboard. The key was the chalk. It took Faubert a lot of effort. He did not know how many times he scolded Li Zixuan in his heart for being a prodigal and making useless things. Li Zixuan nodded and went to the storeroom in the south alone. He pushed the door and entered. There were a few blackboards that were about 2 to 3 square meters in size and a few boxes of chalk. There were hundreds of boxes in each box. Other than white, there were also red, yellow, and blue chalk. Li Zixuan stepped forward and took out a piece of chalk. He casually drew a few strokes on the blackboard in front of him and couldn't help but nod in satisfaction. Although the chalk wasn't as fine as the modern ones, the words written were still clear and barely enough. That's right. Li Zixuan planned to bring the blackboard and chalk with him when he went to the Imperial College tomorrow. As for the cost of the materials, he did not ask Lier for it. For the time being, he would take it as his contribution to the Tang dynasty's education industry. After looking at the blackboard and chalk, Li Zixuan called Xiao Shi over and they went to the study room together. Xiao Shi sensibly helped him grind the ink. Li Zixuan held his chin and pondered for a moment. He then picked up the brush and started to write a lesson plan. Since the fate of being a teacher was unavoidable, then he would be the most awesome teacher. This was Li Zixuan's style of doing things in his previous life. Either he did not do it, or he did it well. Teaching mathematics in the Imperial College would definitely not be the same as teaching Iron Egg. He could not guarantee that the students in the Imperial College would be as obedient as Iron Egg. Many people felt that mathematics was very difficult and boring. However, they did not know that this class could also be very interesting. At this moment, He could not help but think of his elementary school mathematics teacher in his previous life, Lu Wenjie. His mathematics classes were really lively and interesting. It was not like the mathematics teachers in junior high school, and university who just read from the books and were not interesting at all. Li Zixuan recorded down some very interesting basic mathematics questions. He planned to keep them for tomorrow. It was the first class, so he had to pique the interest of the naughty children. Otherwise, no one would listen to the rest of the class. Actually, Li Zixuan was thinking too much. In this era, the concept of respecting one's teachers was very important. As the saying goes, a teacher for a day, a father for life. In order to learn, one had to respect one's teacher. Basically, whatever the teacher told you to do, you had to do it. Otherwise, you would be labeled as a traitor and your reputation would be completely ruined. On the other hand, it was different from before the Sui dynasty, where the government schools were exclusive to the children of the nobles. The Tang Dynasty Imperial College would also make an exception and recruit a group of children from poor families. These children from poor families had a very strong thirst for knowledge. They did not care if what you said was interesting or not. As long as they could learn something from it, they would be willing to listen even if it was as plain as water. After half an hour, Li Zixuan finished writing all the interesting jokes that he could think of. He stood up and rubbed his sore wrist. Xiao Shi quickly poured a cup of water for him and passed it to him. "Young master, you have been tired for half a day. Drink some water." Li Zixuan smiled. He was really thirsty. He took the cup and drank a few mouthfuls before letting out a long breath. "Okay, I'm done. Xiao Shi, thank you for your hard work." Xiao Shi had been grinding beside him for as long as he had been writing. Grinding ink was also a very tiring job. After a long time, it was not as easy as writing. Xiao Shi smiled and said, "Young master is the one who has worked hard." Xiao Shi has not seen young master so serious in a long time. Li Zixuan sweated. "Are you praising me or insulting me?" Cough, cough. "It's getting late. Let's go and see how Iron Egg and Lan Er's homework is going." Li Zixuan brought Xiao Shi to Iron Egg and Lan Er's classroom. He could hear them quarreling from afar. The answer to this question is 175. Iron Egg, you got it wrong. That's not right. Sister Lan Er, this question is definitely 125. Calculate again. Really? But I'm so smart and cute. How could I calculate it wrong? Iron Egg, Li Zixuan was speechless. His sister was also as arrogant as him. Iron Egg, Lan Er, have you finished your homework? I'm going to check it. Li Zixuan pushed the door open with Xiao Shi and said to the two children in the room with a smile, "No, brother, you should check Iron Egg's first, then check mine." Lan Er quickly covered her book and did not let Li Zixuan see it. She had just calculated it. She seemed to have calculated it wrong. That was why she wanted to let Li Zixuan check Iron Egg's first. She still had a chance to change it. This girl secretly matched her answers with Tai Dan. She hadn't even settled the score with her, but she actually went overboard. Forget it. Who asked her to be her younger sister? Li Zixuan shook his head. He could not be bothered to argue with Lan Er. He took Iron Egg's homework and began to read it. After a while, Li Zixuan nodded and praised. "Everything is correct. Iron Egg, you did well." Iron Egg was instantly happy. Lan Er quickly changed the answers and passed the book to Li Zixuan. "Brother, I've finished. Quickly check it." After saying that, she stood in front of Li Zixuan with her head held high. She looked as if she was waiting for praise. Li Zixuan was speechless. "You've already matched the standard answers. What's there for me to check?" "No need. Lan Er, you've passed the test. Tomorrow, you'll go to the Imperial College with me. Iron Egg, you have to continue to work hard. As my direct disciple, you can't be beaten by the Imperial College's supervisors." Iron Egg immediately felt pressured. However, he still clasped his fist and said, "Master, don't worry. Iron Egg will definitely not embarrass you." Li Zixuan nodded with satisfaction and left. "Hey, stinky brother, you haven't praised me yet. I also got it all correct." Iron Egg covered his face. Li Zixuan staggered and almost fell to the ground. Chapter 153. The next day, Li Zixuan finally did not have to be dragged out of bed at 4 in the morning. The Imperial College was not as perverted as the morning court, where classes started so early. Xiaoxi came over to wake him up at 7:15 a.m., 7 a.m. in modern times. This was the time that Li Zixuan told her yesterday. Li Zixuan stretched out his arms and closed his eyes, allowing Xiaoxi to help him dress and wash up. After transmigrating for so long, he had gradually gotten used to the corrupt life of a rich second generation. When he came to the front yard, he met Iron Egg, who had just finished his training and running. Li Zixuan casually asked, "Iron Egg, how is your training going? Did you find the Qi?" Iron Egg wiped the sweat off his face, scratched his head, and said dejectedly, "Master, Iron Egg has not found the Qi yet, but I can run faster." Li Zixuan smiled and shook his head. He went forward and patted Iron Egg's head, saying, "Don't be discouraged. It's normal that you can't find the Qi in such a short time. It doesn't matter if you have ordinary talent. As long as you are willing to work hard, you will definitely become an outstanding person in the future." Iron Egg felt warm in his heart. He raised his head and asked, "Master, can someone like Iron Egg become as powerful as you?" Yesterday, Iron Egg heard from his sister that Li Zixuan alone went deep into the stronghold of thousands of people. He fought against thousands of people alone and killed nearly 80 bandits, including a master. Just hearing this made his blood boil. He could not help but hate himself for being too slow in his training. Otherwise, he would be able to kill with his master. Li Zixuan nodded affirmatively and said, "As long as you work hard, of course you can. Iron Egg, there are indeed some talented and intelligent people in the world. For example, your master, me." Bruiser choked and tried his best to hold back his laughter. Li Zixuan continued, "But if ordinary people work hard, they can also succeed. Master has heard of a story about an ordinary person who didn't give up and eventually crushed all the geniuses. It was said that in ancient times there were immortals. At that time, many mortals could also cultivate immortality. However, among mortals, there were good and bad ones. At that time, there was an ordinary mountain village boy named Han Li. He accidentally entered a small Jianghu sect and became a registered disciple. His status was low, and his natural talent was extremely mediocre. But in the end, he relied on his own efforts and reasonable calculations to successfully establish himself in the sect and enter the ranks of immortal cultivators. From then on, he laughed proudly in the 3 dimensions. Early in the morning, it wouldn't be too much to use the legend of a mortal's journey to immortality to give his disciple a bowl of chicken soup for the soul, right? Master, can you explain in detail?" Iron Egg's eyes lit up as he said excitedly. "Well," Li Zixuan said unhappily in his heart, "damn, this novel has a total of nearly 9 million words. If I were to tell you in detail, wouldn't it take 3 days and 3 nights? But why was this boy so excited? Even if this bowl of chicken soup had some motivations for him, the effect shouldn't be so obvious. Let's eat first. This story is quite long, and we have to go to the Imperial College later. But Iron Egg, why are you so excited?" Iron Egg said embarrassedly, "Well, Master, Iron Egg's real name is Han Li. Iron Egg is just my nickname." Damn, Li Zixuan almost knelt down in front of his cheap disciple. What a coincidence, you're going to heaven. He didn't expect that a random bowl of chicken soup would cause a collision and cause a car accident. He had suspected that the name Iron Egg was just a nickname. After all, this name was too vulgar. He had never thought that Bruiser would have such an ordinary-looking name. But in fact, it was amazing. Li Zixuan wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and sighed, "Well, Iron Egg, I still think Iron Egg is a good name. Let's go, let's eat." If he was really called Iron Egg Han Li, he would probably be out of character and wonder if he had walked into the wrong scene. After breakfast, Li Zixuan took Lon Iron Egg, and a few servants who were carrying chalk on the blackboard to the Imperial College. The Imperial College of the Tang Dynasty was built next to the Imperial City, not far from Yongle Lane. That was why Li Zixuan dared to sleep until 1:15 in the morning. Half an hour later, the group arrived at the entrance of the Imperial College. After making their identities known, Li Zishuan led the group through the gate under the strange gaze of the gatekeeper. The Imperial College was called the Imperial College during the Wuda era, and it was called the Imperial College during the Sui dynasty. It was only this year that Li Er officially named the Imperial College as the Imperial College. There were more than 10 houses of various sizes and dozens of unknown towering trees outside the houses. The environment was very beautiful. Occasionally, they could see a few supervisors hurrying to the houses. They were probably late because they had overslept in the morning. "Mr. Li, you're here?" Kong Yingdao walked out from an exquisite room and greeted Li Zishuan. "Yes, Mr. Kong, I'm not late, right?" Kong Yingdao looked at the sundial in the courtyard and pointed at Li Zishuan. He said in a good mood, "You're just in time. You really know how to rush." Li Zishuan thought to himself, "It's good enough that I'm here on time, yet you're still being so picky. But why did you bring these people here?" Kong Yingdao looked at the strange group behind Li Zishuan and couldn't help but be confused. What's the use of that black wooden board? Also, why did you ask them to carry that big box? Are you here to teach or to move? Li Zishuan smiled proudly and said, "Mr. Kong, this is a good thing. It can allow students to learn more efficiently. In China's academies, most of the time, students learn from books. If they had any questions, they would ask the teacher, and the teacher would give them a face-to-face lecture and answer. Sometimes, when a famous teacher came, the teacher would hold several lectures. The students would sit below and listen to the lecture and take notes. There was no blackboard to help with the teaching. However, research showed that people always received information through their various senses. However, the proportion of information received through each of the senses was different. Among them, vision accounted for 83%, hearing accounted for 11%, smell accounted for 3%, 5% touch accounted for 1%, 5%, and taste accounted for 1%. If you knew the proportion, you would understand that the greatest effect of the blackboard was to provide visual information to the students. Originally, only about 11% of the content explained by the teacher could be heard by the students. However, with the blackboard, the students had an additional visual channel to look at the content written on the blackboard. In theory, at least 94% of the information could be perceived by the students. From the perspective of information acquisition, the blackboard was an extremely important event in the history of education. It greatly increased the efficiency of teaching and at the same time laid the foundation for the classroom teaching system. In his previous life, no matter how the curriculum was reformed, even when multimedia teaching replaced the blackboard, the visual method of information acquisition never changed. Kong Yingda had been teaching and educating his whole life, but he had never heard of anything that could increase the efficiency of learning. After hearing Li Zishuan's words, his curiosity was immediately piqued. "Oh, is there really such a magical item in this world? Can I, Mr. Li? Hurry up and show me." Li Zishuan hurriedly said, "Mr. Kong, don't be in such a hurry. Just tell me where the mathematics class is first. I'll bring this thing in, and you can take your time to look at it." Kong Yingda felt that it was reasonable and said, "Oh, yes, I'm confused. It's almost time for the class. I'll bring you there now." Chapter 154. Under Kong Yingda's personal guidance, Li Zishuan passed through rows of neat and magnificent buildings and came to an obviously shabbier and smaller building to the south of the Imperial College. The sign hanging in the middle of the building had the words "School of Mathematics" written on it. "This is the School of Mathematics. Li Xiannan, quickly go in. Today, this old man wants to see what kind of magical things you brought." Kong Yingda pointed at the building in front of him and smiled while stroking his beard. Li Zishuan frowned slightly. He looked at this shabby and small house, and then thought of the magnificent Imperial Academy, and other academies he saw on the way here. He couldn't help but feel a little unhappy. He wasn't the kind of person who couldn't bear hardships, but there would be no harm if there was no comparison. Why was the Imperial College's building grand, while his was short and shabby? Kong Yingdao waited for a long time, but didn't hear Li Zishuan speak. He looked back curiously and saw that Li Zishuan's expression was somewhat ugly. He thought for a moment and understood. Haha, Xianan, please don't blame me. The Imperial College is short on space, and the School of Mathematics has the least number of students. Therefore, in order to save resources, the School of Mathematics was allocated here. Although the building is a bit shabby, I believe Li Xianan won't mind. How can scholars like us be affected by external conditions? Li Zishuan was speechless. What was this? Just because there were few students, the conditions were bad? He cursed in his heart. Then he thought and asked, how many students are there in the School of Mathematics? Kong Yingda remembered this very clearly. He answered without thinking. The School of Mathematics currently has 32 students and 1 teaching assistant. It is far less than the other schools, so it was arranged here. Oh, your teaching assistant is Mr. Su. He should be inside now. The Imperial College of the Tang Dynasty belonged to the central government. Its educational resources were not only rich in variety, but also of high quality. The Imperial College was divided into 6 schools. The Imperial College, the School of Imperial College, the School of Four Gates, the School of Calligraphy, the School of Law, and the School of Mathematics. Students of different backgrounds were assigned to different academies. It was recorded in the history books. The Imperial College has 300 students. Most of them are civil and military 3rd rank or above descendants, 2nd rank or above great-grandsons, 2nd rank or above officials, 2nd rank or above county officials, and 4th rank or above officials in the capital. The Imperial College gave birth to 500 people. Most of them were descendants of 5th rank officials or above, great-grandsons of officials who were close to 5th rank officials or 3rd rank officials, and sons of officials who were titled 3rd rank officials or above. The 4 schools would produce 1,300 students. 500 of them would be military officials of 3rd rank and above without a title, 4th rank and above with a title, and civil and military officials of 7th rank and above. 800 of them would be commoners. The study of law will produce 50 people, the study of calligraphy will produce 30 people, and the study of mathematics will produce 30 people. Only those who are of the 8th rank and below, and those who are well-versed in common folk. In the Tang Dynasty, the students from the prefectural and county government schools also had the opportunity to be promoted to the central government. This allowed the children of the common people to enjoy more educational resources. After passing the examinations, the children of the common people in the prefectural and county government schools would be promoted to the central government schools in mathematics, calligraphy, law, or the 4 schools. After that, if their results were outstanding, they could be promoted to the Imperial College. The students of the Imperial College could make up for the Imperial College. This kind of education policy not only made it possible for the children of the common people to obtain better educational resources through hard work, but it also made the Tang Dynasty's official education expand the range of people and increase the number of people. This was something that had never happened in any of the previous dynasties. At this moment, a person walked out of the room. It was Su Hongji, whom Li Zishuan had seen 2 months ago at the ready-made clothing store. Su Hongji went forward and cupped his hands with a smile. Chancellor Kong, Professor Li. Kong Yingda nodded his head. Li Zishuan hurriedly said, Mr. Su, you are my father's best friend. You could just call me Little Xian. Although he had been tricked into teaching at the Imperial College by Su Hongji and Li Er, Su Hongji was still someone of the same generation as his father. He still had to give him the respect he deserved. Su Hongji chuckled and said, Professor Li, your ability in mathematics is above mine. Furthermore, His Majesty has personally conferred you the title of Professor of Mathematics. As the saying goes, those who are accomplished are the teachers. It has nothing to do with age. What's wrong with me calling you Professor Li? Kong Yingda also agreed. Hongji is right. That's how it should be. Mr. Li, quickly go in and teach. Li Zishuan was helpless. He looked at Tai Dan and Lan then said to Kong Yingda, Mr. Kong, one of these 2 children is my disciple, and the other is my younger sister. I usually teach them mathematics at home. Now that I'm teaching at the Imperial College, I brought them here to listen to my classes. Kong Yingda frowned and said hesitantly, but there has never been a precedent for a woman entering the Imperial College in our dynasty. Li Zishuan shook his head and said, "They're only listening from the side. They're not considered entering the college." He estimated that Lan Er's enthusiasm would only last for 2 or 3 days. Li Zishuan did not expect her to be knowledgeable and become a world-shaking genius. Kang Yingda nodded and said, that's fine." Li Zishuan instructed a few servants to carry the blackboard and chalk inside and hang the blackboard properly. The students inside had already heard that there would be a new professor today. When they saw Li Zishuan, they were all stunned. They did not expect the newly appointed professor of mathematics to be so young. Many of them were probably older than Li Zishuan. Was this new teacher reliable? All the students were deeply suspicious of Li Zishuan's ability. When Li Zishuan saw that the blackboard was hung, he turned around and looked at the students. They were all children in their teens. Of course, there were also many who were 14 or 15 years old. All the students hurriedly stood up and greeted him in unison. "Hello, sir." Even though they had thousands of suspicions, the deep-rooted concept of respecting their teachers made them have no choice but to put on a respectful attitude on the surface. Su Hongji, who was standing below Li Zishuan, also saw the deep distrust in the students' eyes. He frowned and was about to scold them when Li Zishuan hurriedly waved his hand to stop him. He looked at the 30 students and smiled. "Hello. Today is my first class for all of you. My name is Li Zishuan. I'm also a professor of mathematics appointed by His Majesty himself. I know that many of you think that I'm not qualified to teach you mathematics because I'm young. In the next half an hour, I will give you all the opportunity to ask questions. If your questions about mathematics stumped me, then I will immediately ask His Majesty to resign. If you can't stumble me, then you will have to listen obediently in class. All right, if you have any questions, then ask." When Li Zishuan finished speaking, the entire classroom was silent. Everyone, including Kang Yingda, looked at him in disbelief. It must be known that in this era, teachers were greater than heaven. Whatever the teacher taught, the students would learn. How could a teacher be willing to say such things to students? After a while, the students reacted. Some of them couldn't help but whisper to each other. There were also a dozen or so students who were dressed more plainly. They stood up together and respectfully cupped their hands to Li Zishuan. "Students are afraid. Students have absolutely no intention of doubting, sir. Please take back your order." The voices of these dozen or so students immediately drowned out the noise in the classroom. The rest of the students, regardless of whether they had doubts about Li Zishuan or not, hurriedly stood up together and said, "Students are afraid. Student is terrified. Teacher, please retract your order." Su Hongji hurriedly gave Li Zishuan a look, indicating that he didn't need to do so. Seeing this, Li Zishuan smiled. All of you sit down. I don't care if you have that intention or not, but I will never take back what I have said. Since I'm going to be your teacher, of course, I will be more capable than you. You can set your questions without any worries. If anyone can give me a problem in mathematics today, not only will I resign from my position as a mathematics doctor, I will also recommend him to His Majesty as the new mathematics doctor. Li Zishuan's last sentence was like poking a hornet's nest. Many of the students in the Institute of Mathematics were poor children who had been selected from other provinces and counties to enter the directorate. Weren't they studying hard for the sake of a good future? If they could baffle Li Zishuan, then they would very likely have a meteoric rise. How could they not be tempted? Su Hongji was so anxious that his forehead was sweating. Kang Yingda, on the other hand, was relatively calm and thoughtful. Iron Egg and Lan Er, who were sitting at the back, were not worried at all. They were full of confidence in Li Zishuan. Student Ku Shiqing from Bazhou. May I be so bold as to ask for your guidance? The students below were noisy for a long time. Finally, one of them could not help but stand up and cup his hands to challenge Li Zishuan. It's Ku Shiqing. He has the best grades in our school. That's right, Dr. Liu even praised him for his outstanding talent before. I'm afraid this new teacher is going to fail. Li Zishuan heard the discussion below and nodded with satisfaction. Ku Shiqing came at the right time. If he wanted to come, he would send the best. This would save him a lot of time. Good. Kushirching, right? Whether you can baffle me today or not, your courage is worthy of praise. Give me your question, Li Zishuan said with a smile. Chapter 155. Imperial College, School of Mathematics. Everyone's attention was on Kushirching, waiting for him to give the question. I would like to ask you to solve a question in 15 minutes. The question is 1352 multiplied by 2781. What is the result? Kushirching thought for a moment and gave a multiplication question with a huge number. Wow, such a huge number. It would take a whole day to solve it, right? That's right. Kushirching's question is too ruthless. As early as the pre-Qin dynasty, people learned to count and multiply with arithmetic. First put the multiplier above, then put the multiplicand below, and align the last digit of the upper digit with the first digit of the lower digit. From left to right, use the first digit of the upper digit to multiply the lower digit. Put the product in the middle of the two numbers, then remove the first digit of the upper digit. Move the lower digit 1 to the right. Multiply the second digit of the lower digit. Add the product in the middle, and remove the second digit of the upper digit. Until the upper digit is used up, the middle digit is the result. If Kushirching's question were to be solved with arithmetic, it might take a whole day. Kang Yingda and Su Hongji listened to the question with a dignified face and frowned. Li Zishuan smiled casually and said, Haha, it's not difficult. Kushirching, you don't need me to solve this question. My eldest disciple can do it for you. Iron Egg, come up and solve this question on the blackboard. This was the multiplication of two 4-digit numbers. With Li Zishuan's strong spiritual power, he didn't need to do it all. He could directly deduce the answer in his mind. It was not challenging at all. It was better to let Iron Egg practice. Yes, master. Iron Egg walked from his seat to the blackboard, picked up a piece of chalk, and began to calculate with the elementary math knowledge Li Zishuan taught him. He and Lan found the chalk on the blackboard last night. He had been scribbling on it for a long time, so it was not difficult for him to write on the blackboard now. Wow, did I hear it wrong? Teacher said this question is easy. Can his disciple really do it? Too arrogant. Kushirching also frowned and secretly thought that this new mister was really arrogant. At that moment, he stopped talking and focused on the Iron Egg to solve the problem. However, he was dumbfounded by what he saw. What is this black wooden board? Why was he able to write on it? Why was the handwriting so clear? He could see it from so far away. Also, that guy called Iron Egg, what kind of words did he write? Why does it look like scribbles? The rest of the people also noticed that something was wrong and started whispering to each other. This blackboard is so magical. It can actually be used to write. In this way, when teacher teaches in the future, won't we be able to listen to and read at the same time? Moreover, it will be more convenient to take notes. That's right. In the past, Sir spoke too fast, and I couldn't remember everything. With this, I'll definitely be able to learn better. Now, I hope that you can defeat Kushirching so that you won't have to leave. Hey, look at what that kid wrote. How come I don't know him? Yeah, I don't know either. Why does it look like scribbles? When Kang Yingda saw Bruiser scribbling on the blackboard, he instantly understood what Li Zishuan was talking about outside the classroom. He had been teaching for many years, so he could tell at a glance that teaching on a blackboard was much more effective than teaching in front of a book. Kang Yingda had been teaching for many years, so he could tell at a glance that teaching on the blackboard was much more effective than teaching in front of books. Kang Yingda was extremely excited. He thought to himself that such a good thing should be given to all the teaching rooms in the directorate. He had to ask Li Zishuan for a batch later. When he looked at Iron Egg's handwriting, he could not help but frown. He thought to himself, did Li Zishuan not teach this kid to write before? Why is his handwriting so crooked? I can't recognize it at all. Su Hongji had seen this kind of handwriting before, but he was still shocked at this moment. He did not expect Li Zishuan to be so confident that he could calculate such a huge multiplication problem with his strange handwriting. Time ticked by. After about 7 minutes, which was equivalent to 4 or 5 minutes in modern times, Bruiser left 7 lines of Arabic numerals on the blackboard. He had already calculated the result, but he was still a little worried. He checked it again and found that the result was the same. He then turned to Li Zishuan and said, Li Zishuan, Master, Iron Egg has calculated. The answer is 3,759,912. Li Zishuan nodded slightly. He had calculated it in his mind, and it was indeed the answer. Gulp. The sound of saliva swallowing could be heard. Even though they did not know whether the result was correct or not, they were shocked by such a huge number. They really could not understand how Iron Egg could calculate such a huge number in such a short time. Well, Iron Egg, you can sit back down first. Kush Shirqing, what do you think? Is the answer correct? Li Zishuan smiled and looked at Kush Shirqing. Kush Shirqing was shocked and could not believe it since he heard Iron Egg's answer. When he heard Li Zishuan's question, he came back to his senses and bowed deeply to Li Zishuan seriously. Master, the answer to this question is indeed correct, but I really don't understand why Iron Egg could calculate it in half an hour when it took me a whole day to calculate it. Master, please teach me this efficient algorithm. I'm willing to pay any price. As soon as Kush Shirqing finished speaking, the hall was in an uproar. Wow, he got it right. It's incredible. He could calculate such a huge number in less than half an hour. Is our new master the reincarnation of an immortal? How can his disciple be so good? He must be the reincarnation of an immortal. That's great. I can listen to master's lectures in the future and learn this magical algorithm. If I can learn this algorithm, I will definitely be able to enter the Four Gates Academy next year. Even the seniors in the Four Gates Academy are not this good. Kang Yingda and Su Hongji both opened their eyes wide and almost pulled their beards off. Li Zishuan pressed his hands in the air. Everyone immediately quieted down and looked at him. Shirqing, do you see these 7 lines on the blackboard? These strange small words are a simpler counting method that I invented. As for the calculation process, it is also very simple. I will explain it to you in the future. Now, do any of you have any questions? If you want to ask, hurry up. Li Zishuan took a branch, which he casually broke in the Imperial College before he came. He used the branch to point at the calculation marks left by the Iron Egg on the blackboard and explained it to Kush Shirqing. The Arabic numerals were first invented by the ancient Indians. Later, after 700 AD, the Arabs conquered the Punjab region and captured a mathematician from northern India. The Arabs then learned the Indian numerals and mathematical symbols and spread them to Europe, where they were then modernized by the Europeans. During the Jingguan period, there were no Arabic numerals in the world. Li Zishuan only thought of it later. Therefore, it was not wrong for him to say that he invented it. When Kush Shirqing heard that he would have the opportunity to learn from Li Zishuan in the future, he could not help but be very excited. He respectfully bowed to Li Zishuan and said, "Thank you for your teaching, Mr. Li Zishuan. I have no more questions." Mr. Li Zishuan has opened up a new path and created his own school of mathematics. I can't catch up with you in the field of mathematics. Kang Yingda and Su Hongji looked at each other and saw a trace of horror in each other's eyes. It was easy to create one's own school of mathematics, but it was easier said than done to construct a complete and rigorous school of thought. Since ancient times, those who were able to create their own sects and schools were all famous grandmasters or even great sages. For example, Confucius, Laozi, and others. If Li Zishuan's self-created school of thought could stand up to scrutiny, he would probably become a saint in the future. Was this the emergence of a saint in a golden age? Li Zishuan was secretly pleased by Kush Shirqing's praise. He waved his hand and said with a smile, "All right, if anyone has any questions, please ask. If there are no questions, I will officially start the class." The rest of the students looked at each other. Li Zishuan's disciple was already so powerful. How would they dare to go out and look for trouble? Therefore, Li Zishuan waited for a long time, but no one stood up to ask a question. Just as he was about to officially start the class, he heard a loud voice coming from outside the room. I have a question. Dr. Li, please answer it." Chapter 156. First Class, Little Fatty's Revolt. Following a loud laugh, Li Tai, the little fatty, walked in with a smile on his face. He was dressed in luxurious clothes. Kong Ingda and Su Hongji, who were near the door, quickly stood up and cupped their hands. "Greetings, Prince of Wei." Li Zixuan was also surprised. He cupped his hands at Li Tai and said, "Greetings, Prince of Wei." The rest of the students looked at Li Tai in surprise. Just as they were about to stand up and bow, Li Tai smiled and waved his hand. "No need to be so polite. I came to the Imperial College today to listen to the class. From today onwards, I'm also a student of the School of Mathematics. We will be classmates in the future." Buzz, buzz. The students in the hall couldn't help but discuss among themselves. The buzzing sound was endless. "Oh my God, Prince of Wei will be classmates with us in the future. Did I hear wrongly? This is unbelievable. Our new mister is too amazing. He even managed to attract His Highness King Wei over. I have decided I will stay in the School of Mathematics from now on. With such an impressive teacher and Prince of Wei as my classmate, why should I go to the Four-Gate School? Brother Meng is right. As the saying went, learn literature and martial arts, and you will be a part of the Emperor's family." Scholars like them studied hard so that they could be recognized by the Emperor and become successful. Now that Prince of Wei, who was the Emperor's favorite, was in the School of Mathematics, why should they leave? When Kong Ingda heard that Li Tai wanted to study in the School of Mathematics, he couldn't help but be shocked. He quickly tried to dissuade him. "Your Highness, you can't do this." Li Tai smiled and said, "Chancellor Kong, my father has already agreed to this. From today onwards, I will be a student of the School of Mathematics." Kong Ingda shook his head helplessly and retreated to the side. Li Tai looked at Li Zixuan and said, "After we parted at Strange Taste Pavilion that day, Brother Li was first conferred a noble title and then appointed by my father as a doctor of mathematics in the Imperial College. Brother Li is really successful. I wonder if Professor Li is willing to accept little Wang as a student." Li Zixuan heard that Li Tai was going to be a student in the school. Although he looked calm on the surface, he felt a little strange in his heart. He didn't know what this little fatty was going to do. Could it be that he hadn't been tortured enough last time and wanted to get back at him? Ha, come. He wasn't afraid of this little fatty. "Your Highness, why do you say that? As the saying goes, education is open to all. Since I am teaching in the School of Mathematics, I can teach anyone. However, if your Highness enters the School of Mathematics, there will only be teachers and students. There will no longer be any Wei Wang." He had to give this little fatty a heads up. If he were to come over and put on airs in front of everyone, how would he be able to teach? How would the other students learn? Li Tai understood the meaning behind Li Zixuan's words. He smiled and said, "Of course. From now on, in this School of Mathematics, Mr. and my fellow students can call me Qin Quebec. I will not put on the airs of prince." Last time in front of Strange Taste Pavilion, he was asked 10 questions in a row by Li Zixuan until he was speechless. Li Tai had regarded this as the shame of his life. He had been doted on by Li Er's eldest grandson since he was young and had been praised for his intelligence many times. How could he be willing to lose to Li Zixuan, who was previously a nobody? Yesterday, when he heard that Li Zixuan was going to be a postdoc in mathematics, he was moved. He thought that it would be better if he could learn all of Li Zixuan's knowledge and use it to defeat him. Therefore, Li Tai asked Li Er to enter the School of Mathematics to study. Li Er had always doted on this child. Moreover, this was not a big deal, so he naturally agreed. When Li Zixuan heard Li Tai's promise, he nodded and said, "Qinke, go and find a place to sit." Li Tai looked around and finally sat between Iron Egg and Lon under the disappointed gazes of some students. Kong Ingda and Su Hongji, who were next to him, widened their eyes in disbelief. The Prince of Wei was naughty and mischievous, which was known by all the civil and military officials. Li Zixuan spoke to him in such a commanding tone, but he was not angry at all. Was this an illusion? After Li Tai sat down, Li Zixuan looked at him and asked, "Qinke, you said you had a question before. Now say it." Li Tai looked like an obedient child. He stood up and cupped his hands and said, "Teacher, this student's question is, today there are 2 people together. The first line is 7 steps, the second line is 3 steps, the second line is 10 steps to the east, The first line is 10 steps to the south, and the third line is in the northeast. After saying this, Li Tai's lips curled up into an evil smile. This question was one that he had asked several scholars in the Prince of Wei's Literature Hall to find. It was an extremely difficult math question. He had specifically memorized it and wanted to find an opportunity to make trouble for Li Zishuan today. He hadn't expected Li Zishuan to take the initiative to give him a chance to ask. Wow. In the classroom, other than Li Zishuan and Li Tai, everyone else was in an uproar when they heard this question. This question is so difficult. Where did the Prince of Wei find such a difficult question? I don't know. Brother Could, do you know? It should be from the 9-chapter arithmetic Pythagorean chapter. I've seen it before, but it was too difficult, so I couldn't solve it. Oh, it's the most difficult Pythagorean chapter. This time, Mr. Li is in trouble. Yes, the situation is not good. Li Zishuan had inherited the memories of his predecessor, so he could still understand simple ancient Chinese. The translation of this question was, it is known that A and B set off from the same place at the same time. A's speed is 7, B's speed is 3. B keeps walking east, first walks south for 10 steps, then walks north and slightly east for a while before meeting B. How far did A and B walk? When he heard this question, he was a little surprised. This little fatty did not come with good intentions today. If he wanted to solve this question, he would need to use the Pythagorean theorem and a quadratic equation. If it was someone else, they would definitely be stumped. However, how could Li Zishuan be stumped by a junior high mathematics question? However, what Li Zishuan did not expect was that the ancient people had already learned the Pythagorean theorem. This was something that his previous mathematics teacher did not tell him. It seemed that he could never underestimate the wisdom of the ancient people. In fact, the Pythagorean theorem was recorded in detail in the 9-chapter arithmetic, but it was mainly used in astronomy. The Pythagorean chapter of the 9 chapters of arithmetic begins with the introduction of the Pythagorean theorem and its variations. The Pythagorean theorem states, the Pythagorean and the Pythagorean are multiplied by each other, and the Pythagorean and the Pythagorean are multiplied by each other, and the Pythagorean and the Pythagorean are multiplied by each other, and the Pythagorean and the Pythagorean are multiplied by the Pythagorean and the Pythagorean. Therefore, the Pythagorean technique can be understood as a method of deducing the third side of a known right triangle from both sides. Li Zishuan quickly listed the equations in his mind and solved them. In a few breaths, he got the answer. This was the benefit of having a strong spiritual power. It allowed his brain to react as fast as a computer. Chinke, this question is very good. Some of you may think that this question is very difficult. But in fact, as long as you learn my new mathematics, this question can be solved in less than 10 minutes. After Li Zishuan finished speaking, the rest of the students widened their eyes in disbelief and whispered to each other. Li Tai looked at him indifferently. In fact, he thought that Li Zishuan must be bragging. Li Zishuan smiled and said, the answer to this question is that A took 10.5 steps, and B took 24.5 steps. Am I right, Chinke? Li Tai could no longer stay calm. He opened his mouth and said, how is this possible? It took the Grand Secretary of the Prince's Mansion 2 days to calculate. When the rest of the students heard this, they knew that Li Zishuan had answered correctly again. They could not help but cheer. That's great. Mr. Li answered correctly. He doesn't have to leave the school anymore. That's amazing. Mr. Li is really amazing. It's great that we can learn such amazing mathematics in the future, huh? Li Tai was stunned for a long time and finally came to his senses. He cupped his hands and said to Li Zishuan, Mr. Li is very talented and knowledgeable. I am sincerely convinced. Seeing this, Lan smiled with her small eyes. She was very proud to have such an amazing brother. Bruiser also had a proud look on his face. Kang Yingda and Su Hongji were both shocked and speechless. They thought to themselves, it seems that a great person has come to the Imperial College. Well, half an hour is up. Since you didn't stump me, I will be your teacher from now on. From today onwards, I will lead you to the real door of mathematics. At that time, you will find that you have come to a new world. Li Zixuan looked at the time and said to the group of children in a clear voice. Chapter 157. Inside the School of Mathematics. The students sat up straight and listened attentively to Li Zixuan's speech. A capable person would be respected wherever he went. Li Zixuan had already won everyone's respect with his powerful arithmetic ability. Students in my class, if you have any questions, you can raise your hand to interrupt me at any time. If you have any questions, we can discuss them together. Don't bury your doubts in your heart because of embarrassment. That will only accumulate more and more questions. Li Zixuan saw that they all looked serious and sat up straight. He couldn't help but say a few words to make them relax. When the students heard this, they all felt that this way of teaching was very novel. In the past, the teacher was teaching while they listened silently. If they had any questions, they could only hold it in and ask the teacher after class. Li Zixuan continued, I don't care how you studied before. Since I'm teaching, you have to listen to me from now on and learn according to my rhythm. In the future, the School of Mathematics will have a small exam every 7 days, a midterm exam every month, and a big exam every half a year. The first place in the monthly exam will be rewarded with a free meal at the Zuetian restaurant. You can bring your family and order whatever you want, but you can't waste it. The last 5 in the monthly exam will take turns to clean the School of Mathematics before the next exam. In 2 days, I will ask someone to put up a big sign in front of the School of Mathematics. The first 5 in the monthly exam will enter the honor roll, and the last 5 will enter the shame roll. As for the first place in the half-year exam, the reward will be 100 strings of coins. Do you all understand? The students in the classroom were just applauding Li Zixuan's open-minded teaching system. When they heard this series of rewards and punishments, they were all dumbfounded. The last 5 not only have to clean, but also enter the shame roll? That's so embarrassing. No, we can't be the last 5. In the future, we'll have to work late at night. The first place can have a free meal at the Zuetian restaurant. How much is that worth? How? Do you want to fight for the first place? Yes, I will fight for it. I once told my parents that I will take them to the best restaurant in Chang, and for a meal one day. Okay, I believe you can do it. Brother Shirqing, doesn't that mean the first place is already in your bag? You can't say that. None of us understand teachers' new mathematics. We all have the same starting point. Oh, the one who is most likely to win first place is teacher's direct disciple. Iron Egg. Well, that's possible, but isn't that unfair? Kong Yingda stroked his beard and did not say a word. In fact, he was thinking to himself, this reward and punishment system is quite novel. I'll see how effective it is later. If it can promote students' learning, then I'll promote it to the other academies of the Imperial College. These students' reactions were all within Li Zixuan's expectations. After all, no one wanted to lose face. After they quieted down a little, Li Zixuan picked up a piece of chalk, squinted his eyes, and smiled. Don't worry, everyone. If Iron Egg is ranked first, then the reward for the first place of the month will be automatically extended to the second place. Well, I've explained the learning system of the mathematics school to you. Next, let's get to know each other. According to the order of your seats, everyone will stand up and introduce themselves. Come, let's start with you. A thin boy in the first row near the door saw Li Zixuan pointing at him. His face instantly turned red, and he stammered, Teacher, are you talking to me? Li Zixuan also saw that the boy was a little shy, but the root of his shyness was his lack of self-confidence. He smiled gently and encouraged him. Yes, let's start with you. Don't be afraid. No matter what the relationship between teachers and students was before, from today onwards, we are all a family. We must love each other and help each other. Since we are a family, why don't you stand up and introduce yourself? The boy hesitated for a while before he finally plucked up his courage and stood up. He said shyly, Hello, teacher. Hello, everyone. I'm Lu Yin from Jianzhou, Hedong Province. Li Zixuan staggered. What a domineering name. Hello, teacher. Hello, everyone. I'm Jiang Qingyu from Jizhou, Hebei Province. Li Zixuan listened attentively to their self-introductions, memorizing their names and faces one by one. His memory was excellent. By the time all the students had finished their self-introductions, he had already built a database of their information in his mind. Well, let's start the class. For the first lesson, I'll teach you a new counting method. Look at these 10 numbers on the blackboard. Li Zishuan introduced the Arabic numerals to the students as he wrote and drew on the blackboard. The students looked and listened attentively while taking notes below. Kong and Da nodded secretly. This way of teaching with the blackboard did make it easier for the students to concentrate. Hey, Sister Lon, can you give me your teaching materials? I can buy them for 10 strings of cash. Look, our Prince of Wei is so generous, directly offering 10 strings of cash. He's not like that poor Li Chengxian from before, who had to grit his teeth and beg for half a day to buy a copy of Journey to the West before he was willing to offer 5 strings of cash. It turned out that Li Tai saw that everyone else was taking notes from time to time, except for Lon and Iron Egg. He glanced at their table and immediately discovered their secret. It turned out that they had teaching materials. So he rolled his eyes, leaned over to Lon and whispered to her, "Who is the Prince of Wei?" Anything that could be solved with money was not a problem. But Lon was a rich woman herself. She didn't care about that little bit of money. Not selling? You're the Prince of Wei. You're so stingy. Lon pouted and said with disdain. Beside him, Bruiser quickly covered his mouth to stifle his laughter. Li Tai was speechless. Among all the civil and military officials in the court, only Lon would dare to say that he, Li Tai, was stingy. 20 strings of cash, Li Tai said ruthlessly. He didn't believe that this girl wouldn't be tempted by that much money. Unfortunately, the result disappointed him. Not selling. Li Tai's face darkened. He wanted to get angry, but when he saw Li Zishuan giving a lecture, he didn't dare to say anything. He could only mumble to Iron Egg and say, "Brother Iron Egg, how about you sell your teaching materials to me?" Iron Egg thought about it and felt that it was a good deal to sell a book for 20 strings of cash. Moreover, he heard from his master yesterday that these teaching materials, so he nodded to Li Tai and said, "Okay." Then he handed the book to Li Tai. Li Tai was overjoyed. After being rejected by Lon he didn't have much hope. He didn't expect to receive such a pleasant surprise. He excitedly took over the teaching materials. Without saying anything, he took out a few gold pancakes and placed them on Tai Dan's table. "Good, Iron Egg. You're a good brother. I, Li Tai, will recognize you as my brother." Iron Egg took the gold cookies and was secretly happy. With so much money, he could buy a lot of delicious food for his father and sister. I've explained the new counting method, the new symbols, and the 4 arithmetic rules. Here is the multiplication table. Copy it down. You must memorize it by today. I'll check it tomorrow. Li Zishuan wrote the multiplication table on the blackboard and said to the students. As the students copied, they exclaimed that the new numbers and new symbols were too easy to use. It was many times more convenient than using Chinese characters. Su Hongji, who was at the side, couldn't help but praise Kong Yingda. "Chancellor Kong, the advantages of Professor Li's new counting method and new operation symbols are too obvious. It can be considered a groundbreaking revolution in the history of mathematics." Although Kong Yingda didn't specialize in mathematics, he had done some research on it. He nodded and said, "Indeed, I'm afraid that your school of mathematics will officially rise in the future." After a while, when they finished copying, Li Zishuan wrote 5 addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division problems on the blackboard and said, "Now, use the knowledge I just taught you to solve these 5 problems. I'll ask 5 people to come up and do it on the blackboard." Chapter 158. Ku Shiqing, Wang Meng, Meng Wenhao, Zheng Ziren, Li Tai. The 5 of you come up and answer these 5 questions according to the order I call. Li Zishuan randomly picked a few students. Of course, Li Tai was an exception. He wanted to deliberately make things difficult for this little fatty. Wang Meng, Meng Wenhao, and Zheng Ziren were shocked. They didn't expect Li Zishuan to remember their names just by listening to their self-introduction once. They couldn't help but be more convinced by this new teacher. The 5 of them obediently came to the blackboard, took out chalk, and imitated Li Zishuan's writing on the blackboard, and prepared to answer the questions. Who knew, clack? The five of them had just touched the chalk on the blackboard when the chalk in their hands broke one after another. Kong Yingda and Su Hongji, who were watching from below, felt their hearts ache. To them, chalk was a good teaching material. It was normal for people who were used to writing with a brush to not control their strength when using chalk for the first time. Li Zixuan didn't scold them. It was just a few pieces of chalk. He didn't feel bad. Li Tai frowned. He tried a few more times and finally got used to the strength of the chalk. When he looked at the question carefully, he was dumbfounded. It was a combination of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, and the two numbers multiplied by each other were 3 digits. It was his first time learning this new type of arithmetic. Did it have to be so ruthless? The little fatty pouted and looked at Li Zixuan bitterly. He was sure that Li Zixuan must have done it on purpose. But Li Tai wasn't someone who would admit defeat so easily. He gritted his teeth and gave it his all. Accompanied by the squeaking sound of chalk rubbing against the blackboard, the few of them began to answer the questions. After a while, Ke Shiqing, Wang Meng, Meng Wenhao, and Zheng Ziren finished their calculations. They put down the chalk and returned to their seats. Only Li Tai was still sweating profusely as he calculated. Li Zixuan smiled and didn't provoke him. He looked at the answers of the other 4 students first. Slowly, his smile froze on his face. Wang Meng, stand up. Sir. Wang Meng realized that he had miscalculated. He stood up and stammered. Who taught you that 9 times 6 equals 45? See? Sir, it's you taught me. Ah. Wang Meng asked curiously. Li Zixuan was furious. Bullshit. Show me the multiplication table on the blackboard. Let's see what 9 times 6 equals. Wang Meng glanced at the multiplication table and felt that he had done nothing wrong. He immediately regained his confidence and confidently said, Teacher, look at the multiplication table. It says 6, 9, 54. Doesn't that mean 6 equals 45? Holy shit. Li Zixuan felt like 10,000 alpacas were galloping through his heart. The other students in the classroom were silent for a moment, and then they couldn't help but laugh. Li Zixuan explained the commutative law of multiplication to Wang Meng and punished him by making him copy the multiplication table 10 times. At this time, Li Tai finally finished his problem. Just the calculation steps alone took him more than 20 lines. It was really difficult for him. The problem wasn't that difficult, but it would take some time to solve. Li Tai wiped the sweat from his forehead, put down the chalk, and glared at Li Zixuan. He turned around and was about to return to his seat. Pfft. Ha ha. All the students pointed at Li Tai's face and laughed loudly. It turned out that when Li Tai was wiping his sweat, he had accidentally smeared the chalk dust on his face. Instantly, he looked like a little fat pig that had been smeared with white powder. Li Tai reacted. He quickly wiped his face with his sleeve and awkwardly returned to his seat. Li Zixuan ignored everyone's laughter. He looked at Li Tai's solution and nodded. Although this little fatty was sometimes arrogant, it was undeniable that he had the right to be arrogant. He learned things faster than others. Quiet. What are you laughing at? Li Zixuan roared. The students in the classroom immediately quieted down. Li Zixuan nodded with satisfaction and said, Other than Wang Meng, the other 4 students all got it right. They're worthy of praise. Especially Li Tai. His problem was the most difficult, but he still managed to solve it. Everyone applauded him. After that, Li Zixuan took the lead and clapped his hands. But the other students looked at him strangely and did not applaud. Li Zixuan calmed down and suddenly understood something. In ancient times, there was no such thing as applauding when praising others. In fact, the origin of applause was said to be in ancient Rome before the Christian era. In a barbarian tribe that was at war with Rome, there was such a habit. When the leader finished speaking or issued a call, the soldiers would tap the weapons in their hands to show their support. This was much easier and more powerful than the Roman soldiers shouting to respond to the leader. Therefore, the Roman soldiers gradually learned this method, and it eventually evolved into applause. In ancient China, there was also applause. However, it was not to welcome or praise, but to express happiness or anger. There was an idiom that proved that clap and laugh. Ahem, In the future, when a student is praised, we will all applaud and congratulate him. This is the tradition of our school of mathematics. Do you all hear me? If there is no such rule, then I will make the rule, Lisa Schwan thought. Right now, Lisa Schwan had absolute authority in this class. Although the students were puzzled, no one raised any objections. They all applauded. Clap, 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 clap. Loud applause immediately rang out in the classroom. As Li Tai listened, he suddenly felt that the feeling of being applauded by others was quite good. He suddenly felt that Lisa Schwan was not so despicable. Then, he could not help but applaud for himself. Kang Ingda and Su Hongji shook their heads and smiled bitterly. Looking at all the official and private schools in Tang Dynasty, there was no one who taught like Lisa Schwan. The entire classroom was in chaos. Lisa Schwan saw that it was about time. He still had to meet Cheng Yaojin, Qin Xiong, and the others for lunch at Zuixin restaurant. He said, "All right, this morning's class is over. In the afternoon, you all can study by yourselves. As for your teaching materials, I will personally pay for them. In the next 2 days, I will arrange for craftsmen to print them out for you. When the time comes, everyone will get one." "Thank you, teacher." "Thank you, teacher." All the students were grateful from the bottom of their hearts. Although this new teacher had some rules that were a bit ridiculous, he was knowledgeable and generous. However, there was one person who did not think so. That person was Li Tai. When he heard Lisa Schwan's words, he almost vomited blood. He had spent 20 strings of coins to buy this teaching material. How could someone give it out for free without spending money? "Well, brother Qin-Ke, do you want me to refund the money to you?" Iron Egg saw Li Tai's gloomy face and could not help but ask tentatively. Li Tai waved his hand and said gloomily, "No need." Li Tai did not have the face to ask for the money that he had given out. Lisa Schwan thought for a while and said, "Oh, right, there's one more question. The question is about the height of the ginkgo tree to the west of the entrance of the Imperial College. You can give me the answer after you have measured it, or you can write down your measurement method and give it to me. No matter what, you must hand in the next class. The one who did the best homework this time will get 2 extra points for this month's exam. Tomorrow is the 7th day of a new year, so we will not have classes. In the future, on the 7th, 8th, 14th, 15th, 21st, 22nd, 28th, and 29th of every month, the school will have a break. Okay, class dismissed." After saying that, he was about to leave. Li Tai, Lan Iron Egg, Kang Ingda, and Su Hongji hurriedly followed him out. The rest of the students in the classroom were in an uproar. The ginkgo tree in front of the Imperial College must be more than 10 feet tall, right? How can we measure it? Yes, even the longest ruler is not that long, right? Even if it is that long, we can't go up. According to what the teacher just said, we can have 8 days off every month. Isn't this a little too much? What will the students in the other schools think if they know? During the Tang Dynasty, the officials had a break every 5 days. Lisa Schwan had a break of 8 days a month. Who cares what they think? With a teacher here, what are we afraid of? That's right, that's right. I say, you guys should think about how to solve the question that the teacher left behind. If you answer it well, you'll get extra points for this month's exam. Don't worry, I will go back and ask my father. My father is the secretary of the Ministry of Works. He might know. Wang Meng, you are shameless. Chapter 159. Professor Li, why aren't you taking a break according to the regulations of the directorate? Kang Ingda chased after Lisa Schwan and asked. From his point of view, Lisa Schwan was completely messing around. It was very likely that he was intentionally slacking off. Chancellor Kong, mathematics is a very taxing subject, and one must strike a balance between work and rest in order to ensure high efficiency. In the future, other than having 2 days off every 5 days, I plan to let the students go to class for 45 minutes and rest for 15 minutes every day. My master said that a person's attention can only last for about 5 to 6 minutes at most. After every 3 minutes, taking a quarter of an hour off can ensure that a person's efficiency in doing things will double in the following time. Therefore, it is very necessary for this kid to do this. Li Zishuan said with a serious expression. Even though he was indeed slacking off, shouldn't he find an honorable reason to slack off? Hearing this, Kang Ingda glanced suspiciously at Li Zishuan. Even though he didn't believe him, he couldn't find a loophole in Li Zishuan's words. Su Hongji held back his laughter and didn't say anything. He was certain that Li Zishuan was doing this to slack off. Cough, cough. Then let's not talk about this matter for now. Professor Li, I feel that your blackboard is quite beneficial for teaching. I wonder if you can provide a set of blackboards and chalks for writing on them for the other institutions of the directorate? Kang Ingda thought about it and didn't plan to pursue Li Zishuan's mistake of using the excuse of taking a break to slack off. After all, he had something to ask of Li Zishuan today. Mr. Kang, it's not easy to make these blackboards and chalks. The cost is rather high. If you want me to provide blackboards and chalks for all the institutions of the directorate and the directorate doesn't pay anything in return, I'm afraid it's a bit unreasonable, right? Li Zishuan said with a smile. Even though his family had a lot of money, it didn't come from nowhere. Kang Ingda's words were clearly trying to gain something without risking anything. How could this work? Kang Ingda understood the meaning behind Li Zishuan's words. He sighed in his heart, but said awkwardly, Haha, of course I won't let Professor Li pay for it himself. I will apply to His Majesty for the court to allocate funds to purchase blackboards and chalk for the 120 classrooms of the Imperial College. I just hope that Professor Li won't ask for too high a price when the time comes. The court's finances aren't rich this year either. Li Zishuan pondered for a moment and nodded. Sir, be at ease. This little one is not the sort of person who only cares about benefits and forgets favors. A country is a country, and only when one has a country can one have a home. This little one will not neglect the country's crisis for the sake of my family. When the time comes, this little one will sell the materials to the Imperial College at cost price. I only hope that the students can study hard and make my great Tang even more prosperous. Kang Ingda cupped his hands in gratitude. Li Xian is a righteous man. Li Zishuan smiled. Righteous? If this were the modern world, many keyboard warriors would call him a fool for not making money. After saying goodbye to Kang Ingda and Su Hongji, the group walked out of the Imperial College. At this time, Li Tai came up and shouted, Li Zishuan, wait. After leaving the classroom, Li Tai felt that his identity as a prince had returned to him. He began to be unrestrained again. He even dared to directly call Li Zishuan by his name. Li Zishuan stopped and glanced at Li Tai with a faint smile. Alas, the great Prince of Wei doesn't know how to respect his teacher and directly calls him by his name. If His Majesty and the civil and military officials knew about this, what would they think? Li Tai's fat face paled. Although he was doted on by Li Er, he was also afraid of those censors who only cared about their reputation and not their lives. Thus, he somewhat sullenly called out, Sir Li. Li Zishuan was secretly pleased. With his hands behind his back, he pretended to be pretentious and said, Qingke, why are you looking for me? Little Fatty's mouth twitched, but he was also somewhat helpless. He could only say, Sir, a few months ago, you said that you wanted to print and sell Journey to the West. I don't know why there's still no news after so long. Li Zishuan touched his nose and said awkwardly, Cough. So it's about this matter. Qingke, you may not know, but there are many plots in Journey to the West that involve the struggle between Buddhism and Taoism. It's really not suitable to publicize it. This was something that Li Jingma had mentioned to him one day when he was talking to him. At that time, he was so shocked that he broke out in a cold sweat. Journey to the West overall emphasized Buddhism and suppressed Taoism, but Li Er strongly advocated Taoism. If he took this book out to sell, wouldn't he be courting death? After listening to this, Li Tai suddenly understood and nodded. He said regretfully, Sir's worries are somewhat reasonable. It's just that Journey to the West is such a wonderful novel. It's really a pity that we can't share it with everyone. Li Zishuan said with a smile, I've been thinking for a long time recently and have decided to publish another novel called A Legend of a Mortal's Journey to Immortality. It will be narrated by me and written by Iron Egg. After it's finished, I will hand it over to the workshop for printing. Qingke, if you're interested, you can go and buy it. I guarantee that it will be longer and more wonderful than Journey to the West. Li Tai's eyes suddenly lit up. A legend of a mortal's journey to immortality? Just the name alone sounded amazing. So he said excitedly, "Sir, how about I write it? My calligraphy has already reached the primary level. Even my father, the emperor, and scholar you have praised it. It will definitely not be a disgrace to Sir's wonderful story." Iron Egg couldn't help but feel anxious when his job was snatched away. However, he also knew his own limitations. He knew that his doggy paddle calligraphy was indeed not as good as Li Tai's, a prince. Li Zixuan found it funny. There is actually someone who is willing to fight for such a difficult job? If Qingke is willing, you can come to my house every day during your rest days. You can write it. When you're not around, Iron Egg will write it. Iron Egg felt relieved. It seemed that his master was still thinking about him. Li Tai said happily, "Thank you very much, sir. Then, this student will go to Sir's house tomorrow." With a straight face, Li Zixuan said, "Qingke, you can't slack off on your studies because of this. Mathematics is the foundation of all learning other than Confucianism. You should first solve the problem that I left behind for you." Li Tai said gloomily, "Yes, sir." After parting with Li Tai, Lan and Iron Egg didn't want to join the fun with Cheng Yaojin and the others, so they went straight home. Li Zixuan asked Sanbao and the others to protect Lan, and Iron Egg while he rode his horse to the drunken Immortal Tavern. "Hey, young master, you're here. Master and the other dukes are waiting for you upstairs." When he arrived at the drunken Immortal Tavern, shopkeeper Lu welcomed him with a smile. Li Zixuan nodded. Today's banquet was mainly to thank Cheng Yaojin, Qin Xiong, Yuqi Jingda, and Niu Jinda for their kindness in leading the family to the rescue that day. As the father, Li Jingma naturally had to personally accompany them to drink. Otherwise, wouldn't that be too disrespectful to the dukes? Li Zixuan handed the reins to the servant and went up to the 4th floor alone. From afar, he could hear Cheng Yaojin's hearty laughter. "Haha, Brother Jingma is right. No matter how I look at you, you don't look like a businessman at all. Instead, you look more like a group of rough soldiers like us, haha." Chapter 160. Li Jingma had traveled extensively in the business world for more than 20 years. He had long since mastered the ability to talk to people and ghosts. Therefore, as long as he was willing, he could chat with anyone. Li Jingma knew that it was impossible to chat and drink with military heroes like Cheng Yaojin and Qin Xiong. He had to be forthright. Back then, General Cheng was invincible on the battlefield, causing the enemy to tremble in fear. At that time, I was just a small peddler, but I could often hear stories about General Cheng in the marketplace. Li Jingma gave Cheng Yaojin a little flattery. Old Yuchi, how is it? Old Cheng, have a greater reputation among the people than you." Cheng Yaojin laughed proudly. Everyone in the room was speechless at this shameless old man. "Uncle Cheng, Uncle Qin, Uncle Yuchi, Uncle Nyo, I was delayed by some matters at the Imperial College. I'm really sorry to have made you all wait for so long." Li Zixuan pushed open the door and cupped his hands apologetically. School was already a little late today, and after school, he spent half a day chatting with Kong Ingda and the others at the entrance of the Imperial College. As a result, he was a little late when he arrived at the drunken Immortal restaurant. But he couldn't be blamed. The Imperial College didn't have an alarm or something. No one knew when school was over. It seemed that he would have to assign someone to ring the bell in the Institute of Mathematics. Cheng Yaojin pointed at Li Zixuan and said angrily, "You really have guts. You actually made us elders wait for you. You're really something. You'll punish yourself with 3 cups later." Niu Jinda also echoed, Yes, you should punish yourself with 3 cups." Li Jingma looked at his son with some worry. After spending so much time together, he knew that his son wasn't good at drinking. But at this time, he obviously couldn't refute. Li Jingma could only suppress his worry and wait for the changes. Li Zixuan's face did not have the slightest trace of fear. He ordered the waiter to serve the dishes while personally pouring a cup of tea for Chung Yao Jin and the other three. Uncle Chung, you're right. I should be punished for making you wait for so long. Today, I prepared a special pot of immortal drunken wine for you. It's stronger than the one on the market. Because this wine is rare, I won't fight with you for it later. I'll punish myself by drinking 3 cups of immortal drunken wine as an apology. Chung Yaojin looked at Li Zixuan meaningfully, then laughed and said, That's right. That's right, that's right. Little Xian, you can go and drink the sweet home. You can leave that special immortal drunken wine to me. Old Chung. Niu Jinda and Qin Xiong pointed at Chung Yaojin and scolded him for being shameless. Li Jima heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. He was happy that his son had cleverly resolved the awkward situation. When the dishes were served, everyone sat around the table, drinking and chatting merrily. They toasted each other and toasted each other. It was very lively. Little Xian, today seems to be your first day on duty at the Imperial College. How was it? Did that group of scholars make things difficult for you? Chung Yaojin asked as he drank. Li Zixuan could hear the concern in Chung Yaojin's words and felt warm in his heart. Although old Chung was a boorish person, he treated his own people well. Li Jingma also looked at Li Zixuan with an inquiring gaze. Aha! Thank you for your concern, Uncle Chung. Chancellor Kong has taken good care of me. The teaching assistant of the School of Mathematics is an old friend of my father. Moreover, the Imperial College speaks with one strength. My attainment to mathematics can be said to have reached a higher level. Therefore, I'm quite successful today. Li Zixuan replied smugly. Chung Yaojin laughed. Haha, you're really shameless. However, little Xian, you're also a capable person. You're proficient in literature and martial arts. Unlike my family's Chonyo, who only knows my 3 axes. Qin Xiong interjected and asked, Little Xian, did spiritual master Ling Su teach you the art of mathematics? Uncle Qin, the art of mathematics is only the foundation of my master's lifetime of knowledge. He said that only by mastering mathematics can one create sturdier cities, more powerful weapons, faster vehicles, and more efficient farming tools. The curved plow from before also contained the knowledge of mathematics. Qin Xiong asked curiously, Your master also knows the art of refining weapons? Oh, I almost forgot. In ancient times, people called this skill of Taoism the art of refining weapons. I've been blindly comparing so much just now. Fortunately, Qin Xiong and the others didn't see through it. Li Zixuan felt a little awkward in his heart, but he continued without changing his expression. My master is indeed proficient in the art of refining weapons. In the early years, my master traveled to various countries and collected the best of each country's craftsmanship. He once created a strange object that could allow people to fly. Once, my master was in a small country in Nanyang and was surrounded by tens of thousands of local aborigines. He relied on this object to float away without a single injury. Bragging wasn't against the law. Li Zixuan described his master to his heart's content. In any case, he had learned a little through various means in the past few months. Spiritual Master Ling Su was indeed an otherworldly expert. The number of people in the world who had truly seen him could be counted on one hand. There probably wasn't a single person who was truly familiar with him. Thus, no matter how he bragged, he wouldn't be exposed. Hiss! The few old people in the room widened their eyes in shock. Yuchi Jingda couldn't help but mutter, There are really people in this world who can fly. Isn't this the means of immortals? Li Zixuan shook his head and said, Uncle Yuchi, this is just borrowing the help of external objects. There are no immortals in this world. In fact, when the technology in the world is developed to the extreme, it isn't impossible for mortals to fly in the sky. Chung Yaojin's eyes turned, and he chuckled. Little Xian, does your School of Mathematics still lack students? What do you think of my family's Chonyo? As a brother, you have to give him a hand. Li Zixuan was stunned. He hesitated for a while before stammering. Uncle Chung, it's not that I'm unwilling to accept, but I'm afraid that Brother Chonyo won't be able to learn this. Chung Yaojin glared and said, He dares? See if I don't break his legs. My Tang Empire's internal affairs have basically been stabilized. Those clowns outside will also vanish in a puff of smoke in less than 5 years. How can this Chonyo not learn some other skills? Don't worry and teach him. If he doesn't listen, just tell me and I'll take care of him. All right. Li Zishuan could only mourn for Chang Chumo in his heart. Ha! Madman Chung, your Chonyo's brain is like yours. Even if you give him an immortal secret manual, he won't be able to understand it. Ha! Little Xian, why don't you let my Baolin learn from you? Although this child isn't particularly intelligent, he's willing to work hard to improve himself. Yuchi Jingda couldn't help but make sarcastic remarks. Chung Yao Jin was furious. Old Hey Yuchi, how good can your son be? You still have the face to talk about me. The two quarreled, and there seemed to be signs of a big battle. Qin Xiong, Niu Jinda, and Li Jingma hurriedly tried to stop the fight. In the end, Li Zishuan's mathematics class had 3 more children from the military: Cheng Chumo, Qin Huayu, and Yuchi Baolin. Niu Jinda's son had been recuperating at home, so he didn't make any similar requests. However, the happiest people were probably the students of the School of Mathematics. With Cheng Chumo helping them to take the bottom, wouldn't they have another layer of protection to get out of the role of shame? The banquet ended, and the guests and hosts enjoyed themselves. However, Chung Yao Jin and the others drank a little too much. Li Zishuan called for a few servants to send them back. After finally sending these old masters away, Li Zishuan and Li Jingma couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. They looked at each other, and Li Jingma smiled. All right, little Xian, hurry back to the Imperial College. You still have to teach the students in the afternoon, right? Li Zishuan waved his hand and said, No need, father. The students are self-studying in the afternoon. With teaching assistant Su there, I don't need to go. Moreover, I'll let the students rest tomorrow and the day after, so I don't need to go. Li Jingma's mouth twitched. No one knew his son better than his father. How could he not know what his son was thinking? He paused and finally said helplessly, Then let's go home. The father and son mounted their horses and headed for Yonglelane. Chapter 161. In the afternoon, Madame Li came to the West Courtyard. Iron Egg and Lan went to the Imperial College. Li Zishuan was lying on a deck chair in the pavilion in the middle of the lake in the West Courtyard. He opened his mouth and took the grapes that she fed him. Cough, cough, grapes from the grape trellis. Madam. The two maids saw Madame Li come over and bowed. Li Zishuan also quickly sat up. Mother. Yes. Madame Li smiled and sat down on the bench next to her. He cleverly poured a cup of tea and placed it on the stone table in front of Madame Li. Xian, are you doing well in the Imperial College? Mother, I'm doing well. With my skills, who can bully me? Madame Li rolled her eyes at her son and took a sip of tea. She smiled and said, You Lanner is too much. She must go to the Imperial College to cause trouble for you. How can a girl get married in the future if she doesn't learn how to be a seamstress? Mother, there's nothing wrong with Lan or learning more. Why must she learn how to be a seamstress? She could just find a tailor to make clothes. Li Zishuan said indifferently. He didn't understand why girls in ancient times had to learn how to be a seamstress. Did she marry to make clothes for her husband's family? Madame Li said angrily. Nonsense. If a girl doesn't know how to be a seamstress, which family will want her? Yushi's not bad. I saw a few of her work before, and it's better than mine. How can it be better than Mother's? Mother's skills are naturally the best in Chang'an. This was clearly a trap. If Li Zishuan followed his mother's wishes and praised his wife, there was no guarantee that his mother wouldn't feel jealous. Thus, he shamelessly flattered her. Madame Li was happy when she heard this, but she said, You little sly, trying to make me happy. I've already discussed your marriage with Yushi with Han Lijing. Tomorrow, I'll send a matchmaker to the Han family to propose marriage. Li Zishuan was happy when he heard this. He quickly went forward and poured tea for his mother. Thank you, Mother. It just so happens that I have a day off tomorrow. Why don't we go together? A day without seeing her felt like 3 autumns. They had not seen each other for several days. Every night, when it was quiet, he really wanted to hug his wife. Mrs. Li Zishuan pointed her finger at Li Zishuan's forehead. You child, how can you be so ignorant of the rules? How can the groom personally propose marriage? Tomorrow, your father and matchmaker Song will bring people to the Han family to propose marriage. You just stay at home. You and Yushi are not allowed to meet before you get married. Lisa Schwan was dumbfounded. Mother, when will Yushi and I get married? Madame Li laughed and said, Look at how anxious you are. This is just the beginning of the marriage proposal. Later on, there is still the ceremony of receiving the bride, asking for the name of the bride, accepting the bride, and then the date of the invitation, setting an auspicious date, and finally the welcoming ceremony. Xin, you have to learn the wedding procedures properly. Don't make a fool of yourself when you get married. Lisa Schwan almost fainted as he listened. Did it have to be so troublesome? Couldn't they just have a flash marriage? Mother, then you should set the wedding date earlier. Otherwise, it won't be good if your daughter-in-law runs away. Lisa Schwan wiped the sweat off his forehead and hurriedly ran away after saying that. Madame Li looked at Lisa Schwan's back as he ran away. She shook her head and smiled dotingly. This child, Xiao He and Xiao Shi, who were at the side, couldn't help but cover their mouths and chuckle. Lisa Schwan went out of the mansion and went to the workshop to find Lu Yidao, Lu Dingyi. Ever since Lisa Schwan bought the original Heavenly Craft Pavilion and poached him, this old man had been idling in the Strange Interest Pavilion. After Yin Xiaoning gave his workshop to Lisa Schwan also transferred Lu Yidao to the workshop. This old man usually helped Faubert carve some ornaments on the skateboard in the workshop, so he was free and relaxed. Master Lu, you used to carve all kinds of strange objects. Do you know how to carve words? Lisa Schwan motioned Lu Yidao to sit down first, and then asked. Lu Yidao smiled and said, Young master, carving words is much easier than carving wood. Of course, I know how to do it. What kind of words do you want to carve? Lisa Schwan took out the mathematics book and said, I want to print about 30 copies of this book. I want to trouble you to carve a set of templates. Lu Yidao hesitated and said, Young master, if you want to carve a block plate, it will take a lot of time and effort. It's better to ask a group of poor scholars to copy it. Lisa Schwan heard and suddenly understood. There was no movable type printing in the Tang dynasty. Master Lu, I don't want you to carve a block plate for each page. You can use the clay to make blanks of the same size. Carve a single word in reverse at one end. The height of the word protrusion is like the thickness of the edge of a copper coin. Burn it hard with fire and make it into a single movable type of clay. Then, print it according to the content of each page. Good. Young master's method is good. In this way, all the books can be printed on a large scale in our workshop and passed down to the future generations. It's really a great merit. Faubert just walked in and heard Lisa Schwan's new printing method. He couldn't help but applaud loudly. Manager Fu, Lu Yidao stood up and greeted him. Faubert, you came at the right time. I plan to set up a printing department in the workshop. You could transfer some people to Master Lu. In the future, there will be a lot of books for the workshop to print. Lisa Schwan said to Faubert. Faubert sat down and said, Yes, young master. Lisa Schwan nodded and said to Lu Yidao, Master Lu, set up the printing department as soon as possible. Help me print this book in 2 days. I need it urgently. Lu Yidao took the book from Lisa Schwan's hand and replied, Yes, young master. Young master, what are these curved words on the book? And these circles and dots, what do they mean? Why haven't I seen them before? Lu Yidao opened it and was dumbfounded. These are my new arithmetic numbers, arithmetic symbols, and some punctuation marks. Master Lu, you can print according to them. Lisa Schwan explained. Oh, Lu Yidao scratched his head. Although he didn't understand, he still agreed. He didn't care what it meant. He just needed to print according to it. Faubert, how's my carriage? Lisa Schwan asked Faubert after Lu Yidao went out. Faubert wiped the sweat on his forehead and said, Young master, it's not done yet. This carriage is far more difficult than I thought. I think it will take a few more days. Lisa Schwan nodded and took out a drawing. He said with a smile, Faubert, help me make something else. Faubert was a little dizzy when he saw Lisa Schwan take out the drawing. He didn't know what his young master was going to do. He took a look and couldn't help but be puzzled. Young master, what are you going to do with this thing? Faubert, this is a custom-made shoe for horses. When the horse wears it, its hooves will never be injured again. The life of the horse will also be greatly increased. Lisa Schwan went to see the injury of the white horse at home yesterday. Looking at its hooves that were wrapped in a circle, Lisa Schwan suddenly realized that there were no horseshoes in the Tang dynasty. Looking at the white horse's pitiful eyes, Lisa Schwan asked someone to measure the size of the horse's hooves. He planned to make a pair of shoes for it. After listening to Lisa Schwan's explanation, Faubert suddenly felt a little doubtful. His young master was already so prodigal that it made people's hair stand on end. It wasn't enough for him to make something for himself, but he also wanted to make shoes for the horse. No matter how he heard it, it felt like a fantasy story. Young master, will this really work? Lisa Schwan smiled and said confidently, Faubert, just do it. It will definitely work. Faubert felt helpless and could only agree. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.